T for teen.
Enough talk. Let's fight. Open the gates.
Smash you like a pancake!
Murder and seduce. That's what I do best.
Apocalypse awaken! Onward to victory!
Hello and welcome on into Smite 2. We've got esports. It's back. My name's Anthony Malm, joined by the wonderful Mifflin. Miff, I'm so excited esports is back that I am actually physically shaking about it.
I thought you were cold. I mean, you've been shaking for
Both.
like an hour. I mean, just pulling the veil back a little bit here. That I thought maybe just like frozen tundra. I don't know where you're from.
Yeah, frozen tundra is a really accurate description, I would say,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Frozen tundra with like the hint of the cold air smack. You know, that's the absolute
Nice.
biggest thing. But no, we've got esports on tap for Smite 2. And the best way to play Smite 2 is, of course, grabbing that Founders Edition to get in to be involved with those tournaments. Because Smite 2 Founders Editions, they are officially available to purchase on Steam, Epic Game Store, Xbox, and PlayStation. With the Ultimate Founders Edition, you'll unlock Smite 2 game access, Alpha Weekend access, potentially to compete in future tournaments, perhaps, mayhaps, all the current and future Smite 2 gods forever. Tier 5 cross-gen the Fallen Zeus skin, cross-gen Night Stalker Neath 2 times for your legacy gems, boosting them on up. Smite 1, Smite 2 cosmetics, all coming summer 2024. You'll also grab the Ascension passes for all 23 alpha gods. Not to mention, if you pre-order during the closed alpha period, you can unlock that Smite 2 Cacodemon skin. You've got to have the Ymir skin locked down. We all know how iconic it was in Smite 1, Myth.
Yeah, I mean, what a good issue I'm running into in that there is so much value on the table there that I can't remember all of it. I can't remember the first thing you said or the middle thing. There's just so much you get from that pack. I went a bit cross-eyed. And I think that's a good value proposition. I
It's a good
love it when
problem to
I
have.
buy something and it's just too many things.
It's a really good problem to have, but what are we doing here today? We've got esports, we've got a big-time tournament with a big-time bracket alongside of it for both EMEA and NA. Let's take a look what we got in front of us, Myth.
There's a lot of really good teams here. I mean, we're going to have some players from SPL squads, some squads you might recognize. We're looking at EMEA first. There's, some big names, guys like Vaporish Coast have set up a squad, Hex Mambo with some big names like Rapio, Johnny, Kazik, Spudio out there. A team I'll really be keeping my eyes on is the Leeds Rhinos. That's Streak Up, Genetics, Adapting, Nika, Dardes. And there's still some up-and-comers as well. Some names you maybe don't recognize from Smite 1, but it's a brand new game. I'd love to see some of these OGs upset.
It's a brand new game. It's open to everybody. You've got everybody from amateur leagues all the way up from SOC, SCC, and of course, those SPL names you were oh so familiar with. I'm excited to see some names I recognize from the amateur scene. Maybe they come out, they make a big splash, make a big surprise today. That's always possible.
It is, but I want to see just complete unknowns. I mean, I'm looking at a sheet here. There's a guy in this tournament named Tropsy. I want to see him take out some OGs. We've got dudes named just straight up Drake. I mean, took a major L in a rap beef, could still definitely
This is the
win in
comeback.
Smite. Yeah, this is the comeback tour for Drake.
You know, honestly, if the one single spot Drake could take a W would be Smite 2, I think that's huge for us.
Oh, it's definitely big for us. For Drake, I don't know.
Yeah, semantics. Semantics is a big thing, but a lot of squads that we'll see later on today with the NA stuff too. That is really exciting. I know there's been tons of conversations all around Twitter, a lot on Reddit about the quality of teams that we have out today, and it's genuinely insane the level of competition that's here today. And I'm right on board with you. I know it was said during the dev insight, during the patch notes for Smite 2, and you said it before, looking for those unknowns, those big time surprise performers who make it further in the bracket than anybody gave them any credit for.
We'll be keeping our eyes on their journey as they progress. It's 25 teams out of EMEA, all comprised of new and old players alike. North America, on the other hand, I mean, we haven't got a chance to look at them just yet. That'll start up a little bit later, but there is a massive bracket across the pond with 67 teams signed up. I mean, is so much interest around Smite 2, and it's just crazy to think how early in the life cycle of this game that we are. So many players want to compete, want to be a part of this first step in Smite 2's journey. This is the second alpha weekend ever, and
Yeah.
esports is already kicking off. I mean, it just goes to show the passion in this community.
It's insane. The passion's always what has made Smite so great is this the passion and the interwovenness and love of that community. And getting to see it with Smite 2, getting to see the specific feedbacks, the love of the game, people figuring things out, people doing the crazy stuff, seeing the JMac Zeus supports become
Well, maybe not
popular.
that.
That's the stuff of Smite 2 that makes Smite 2 so far. And I'm looking for a lot of that today. Talking about the actual gameplay we're going to see. I'm looking for as much craziness as possible. I'm not, sure, put a Hades in solo, give me a Kukulkan in mid. Okay. But give me the wild out of control stuff. Give me the chalk mids of the world.
Yeah, the new scaling changes. You could have things like completely int chalk mid. We could have complete tank raw somewhere else on the map. It's just crazy to think how much variety there is in Smite 2 right now. And although it is still the same game that you're familiar with in Smite 1, the system changes, the opening of the item tree has really allowed for, I suppose, player expression is maybe the best way to say it. My on her is not going to look like someone else's on her because mine's the best, but
Sure.
and my CERN's not going to look like someone else's CERN, and I think that's where a lot of the interest is going to come from. There's so much exploration to be done in Smite 2. There are combos that just haven't been tested because there haven't been too many people that had the opportunity to play just yet. So I think that's going to be a major point here for the tournament today, is that we as commentators and fans of the game and fans of the esport are going to have an opportunity to watch and learn with the community.
The watching and the learning part is big. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to feel odd, going to feel different. We're still in those early stages of feeling things out as we go along. It's going to be a lot of okay, they're invading. They're doing the invade meta that was talked about, that was
I hope
expected.
so.
All right, they're playing as gentle as possible. We haven't even seen them go to the Pathfinder buff yet.
Well, I don't want that.
No, no, thank you. Give us fighting. Give us honestly bloodbath. But
Yeah.
it's the options that makes it so special, and, alongside that too, it's the you mentioned the build paths, but being able to adjust midway through is something I'm also kind of excited to see. Is the game turning into that bloodbath? Do you want to rush an item that can really do you wanna rush your Amantia charm, but we're gonna the mushroom? Do you wanna rush the mushroom and start healing in those team fights really early on? Would you rather are you Ymir and you're like, hey, I'm gonna start as face punch, guys. We're gonna roll with it. If I have to change out of face punch, I'm gonna be upset, but we're gonna rock the face punch Ymir to start out.
Yeah, so much versatility with these gods. There are multiple roles for every single character in the game. I mean, it just seems like it doesn't even seem that way. We don't know where these best
No.
gods are, what roles they're best in, and I think that's something people are going to start to figure out as the game develops and as the tournament develops as well. It's something we talk a lot about in early SPL seasons, or at the early portions of seasons, season 9, season 10, emergent meta. What is it that's working, and are people going to try and replicate it, or are they going to have answers to it immediately? Those are the questions that I really want answered throughout today, and we are working really hard to get these games started up for you guys as quickly as possible. But top to bottom, I think it is primarily a celebration of Smite for me. Today is not
Yeah.
so much about seeing the absolute best that the game has to offer. This is still an alpha stage. We're probably going to run into some bugs. We're going to have some fun, but the opportunity itself to just watch competitive Smite 2 so early is something we couldn't pass up on.
I can't wait to see the value that it brings to the future of Smite 2, getting to see it be so competitive so early on, and what changes that could bring potentially. A couple small things to know. Really, the biggest one being on her will be disable today. So if you're not seeing on her get picked up or
No.
banned, I know we were just talking about how good the on her could potentially be too. But if you aren't seeing the on her, that is why. Otherwise, though, it's open reign on the gods we have, and with one ban apiece per team, that's a bit stressful because you've got two new gods that were introduced for this alpha weekend. You've got Soul, you've got Hades, who are both fantastic. I mean, Hades with the changes to Pillar of Agony feels like a completely different character. So I'm also really wondering what are we going to see in terms of teams prioritizing what they get rid of? Are they going to get rid of the oh well I don't want to deal with this with Zeus, dude. That guy's too versatile. He hits too hard. He could be ADC. I don't want to mess with it. Or is it the well Soul and Hades are new. Get him out.
It's hard to say. I mean, I haven't had too many opportunities to play with the new gods just yet. I did get to sit down yesterday and grind it out a bit. Hades, in particular, feels like a menace on the
Oh,
battleground.
it's
The
so
changes
insane.
to his heal, in particular, having a little bit more range on it, and also ticking up to like, I believe I got healed for like 600 late game. Just crazy what he's allowed to do, especially on sieges. So often we talk about how Hades in the late game, he's not really able to siege very well because he's a low range god, and his heal doesn't really make him a sustained pick in Smite 1. In Smite 2, he is. Let a wave roll through, your whole team's going to be full HP. So he allows his squad to keep up that pressure. So it could be a pick that we see looked at pretty consistently. But for my money, having played already, I think I have like 35, 40 hours in Smite 2, it's Neath. And it's magical nuke Neath. That
Yep.
is maybe one of the scariest things I've seen in Smite, full stop. I was there for OG Guan Yu in Smite 1. I saw Fenrir on release when Brutalize was critting, and it doesn't quite compare to getting one tapped by a Neath from halfway across the map. Unravel, dropping the weave, the backflip, popping it immediately if you find a last hit. Just the amount of damage that she has is really scary. I'd be surprised if we don't see that god banned out or at least prioritized.
In terms of prioritizing gods and looking at actual roles as well, no classes in Smite 2. So it's free. You said it earlier, expression, it's creativity on where you want to take what. And the jungle is one of the more interesting spots right now for me because there's less gods than in Smite 1 you would just instantly associate, okay, this character goes here. In Smite 2 so far, it's a lot of, all right, Kurnos jungle, that could cook. It's a lot of trying to figure that out. We talked about the Ymir as well, potentially running face punch Ymir through the jungle. So as the day progresses and we get closer and closer towards, the big time matchups, as well as some of those, surprising matchups of teams we aren't familiar with who could really have some creativity, the jungle, I think, will be the role of seeing, all right, so this is how crazy Smite 2 can get.
I love that you've opened the door for me to talk about jungle because I will always abuse my position here as a caster to push my own agenda. Okay, and my agenda as it stands is that jungle needs some buffs and Loki needs some buffs too. All right, I don't expect we'll see a lot of Loki, but the impact of jungle has swayed the minds of our Smite 2 players. I'm out there reading all your reports and your feedback, and everyone's saying jungle's strong, jungle's strong. I don't know if the jungle's strong right now so much as that it just has impact on the map by nature of it being allowed to impact every single lane throughout the laning phase. And Smite 2 has a slightly longer laning phase than Smite 1 does. But the role itself needs some buffs. Keep your eyes on the damage numbers today. That's all I'm saying. Just while you're watching, keep your eyes out.
Yeah, see who's blowing up who and who's doing what with what. While we wait to get games sorted out, we're going to be taking a peek in at Nika's stream. So that'll be fun to see how things are going there as well. And taking a
We're
peek
in.
in, we're right in to the Bologna running down a Hades. The bludgeon won't find a home, instead runs into an Ode. Now Nika is the one in trouble. The cage out. We pop in just to watch Bully Maguire take down Nika.
Yeah, Nika had it coming there for sure. Just going as far as he wants to into the enemy side of the map. Apology again, Smite fan. We're jumping in a little bit late here as we run into some technical difficulties. We are watching along with Nika on his stream live. If you want to support Nika as well, he is streaming right now. You can go watch him and his POV and hear his commentary. You can hang out here with us. Regardless, seems to me, state of the game, we're about 15 minutes in. You can see exactly what I was talking about a bit earlier, that laning phase a bit longer than it was in Smite 1. Generally, by this point, we'd see pretty significant grouping around Gold Fury or maybe even Pyromancers. But for the most part, you'll see these guys just returning to their lane, keeping that pressure up, really pushing in towards those towers. And I think that's a feature of Smite 2 afforded by the larger map size. Anyone who's been playing recently just knows how big this map feels. Side jungles included. Takes a really long time to walk all the way across, but there are a few answers to that, a few ways for you to circumnavigate the map. And it's those portals on the very edges of the map. You'll see them on the purple swirls on the sides of these side lanes. Will take you all the way across, but that's on a cooldown. Keep your eyes on those. Makes it really difficult to realize when some of these fights are going to happen.
It's tough to read and it's tough to decide what's going to be the most important. I mean, you see that their fights breaking out sort of in this. This is actually my favorite areas to fight. It feels so crammed. This by the Gold Fury deep into Pathfinder. I mean, what it creates
See
is
ya.
opportunities like that with the big time ultimate there from Dardas to find the kill on Takalis. And it's the opening and the space of the fighting and the way the new jungle pathing feels. It kind of does feel as though, okay, we can improvise choke points. We can create enough space to actually make really creative team fights because of just the way that the layout is. It's got that idea of, okay, what could be around this corner? Do I have enough space to get my Eagles rally across? Ymir walls are so impactful at the moment. Odin Cage so far has felt insane in Smite 2.
Yeah, there still are answers to Odin Cage as well. You can leap out as you could traditionally in Smite 1, but there is an item that will give you over a active effect that essentially acts as a phantom shell. So same counterplay, different way to purchase it. We'll see whether or not Nika's squad here decides and elects to go towards that item. But considering 6,000 gold, 7,000 nearly at about
Yeah.
16 and a half, I'm thinking W plus mouse one might just be the only answer that they really need going forward. I mean, they've already knocked out all the tier 1 towers across the map as well. One bit of emergent gameplay that you'll maybe notice if this is your first look at Smite 2 is that everyone on the map has access to beads. No longer is there a traditional relic system. Instead, it's you spawn in, you always have a ward available to you, you always have a beads available to you. So CC immunity needs to be burned through by just about everybody. This does put, depending on how you view it, a little bit less value on CC for your squad. Well, if everybody's got beads and you don't have to, itemize in towards it, there's no sacrifice, or it maybe puts a little bit more value on picking up CC so you can burn through those beads every single time.
Nika with the 1v2 and no fear because there is a Fenrir near. That's going to not go great. It's going to turn into 2 dead pretty quickly. And adapting actually able to get away from that. The counterplay when you're this ahead, especially on Bologna, even when there's players who are the same level, is insane. We'll see if Nika's actually able to get away. What an exciting time that we actually got into. Getting in late again as we wait to get into actually viewing some games from that spectator perspective. It's crazy to see interesting to see how things are really laid out and filling out. Because you talked about builds a lot, and you talked about the idea of maybe we don't counter, maybe we don't stress about the CC because of beads being that free relic. If you want to go things like Blink, Sprint, if you want to go the curses of the world, we talked about Phantom Ring getting you out of Odin Cage, as well as some of the new ones. I'm a big fan of Stasis. I
Oh,
love what that
Jesus.
active item can do. I can't tell you how many times I've caught myself in a stasis. Not too proud of it, but I love what it brings to a team fight.
Yeah, the ability to just lock down for, I believe, what is it, a full 2 seconds, essentially, stunned out, is very interesting. Or even, I've seen people stasis on their own feet when they're getting dove and then beads it themselves. Fire Giant confirmed there by Nika and the boys. Probably going to be able to pick up some return kills. That was a pretty heavy commitment from the enemy side, jumping in towards the objective itself. But Fire Giant in Smite 2 feels a little bit more valuable than it did in Smite 1, so worthwhile trying to go for it.
We're seeing how much Nika and the squad are making use of it. Kalis will be the next to fall down to Nika. It's just what the Fire Giant brings is it's also a bit tougher to kill, especially early on. I mean, we did see it go down quick. That was with all 5 members and an attempt for it to be taken. It's dangerous. It's got new abilities you've got to learn and path around to actually effectively burn down the Fire Giant without losing team members to it. There's the wall. The wall to get into Fire Giant, you can sacrifice 10% of that HP if you want to get into the back door into Fire Giant to make a play for the steal. That's a little bit more sneaky than walking right at them, as we saw the opposing squad here do to Nika. And then going on the other side of the map, the Gold Fury has some really fun changes too.
Yeah, each Gold Fury, again, going to work just about the same way you would expect it, but will eventually level up into that Ancient Fury, giving over additional benefits once you've knocked it down 3 times. So there's a lot of interesting play around objectives. I know one of the major concerns and major, I suppose, complaints in Smite One was, well, after 30 minutes, what really reason is there to play on the Gold Fury side of the map besides
Yep.
knocking down the Phoenix? Now you've got a benefit and something that you could trade out or have to think about. The neutral objective exchange as the game starts to develop. In Smite One, it's always, well, they're on Fire Giant, we got Gold Fury. It's not great, but at least it helped us out a little bit. If it's an Ancient Fury, all of a sudden you're in a little bit of a better spot and you have to think a bit harder about whether or not you want to make that trade.
The Ancient Fury is one of my favorite additions. Might be my favorite addition. With this Gold Fury going down, that will be the third one, I believe. Yes, so
Yep.
we are getting closer to that Ancient Fury time frame. You see the bonuses it gives: 25% bonus true damage to structures and 50 protections when you're near one is great. But the Ancient Fury disables structures. You might be familiar with the Bull Demon King in Joust in Smite 1. It's that same concept of the structures no longer do anything. Where are you going to hide? Because all five of us can now run at you all the way to your fountain if we so please.
Thinking that's a concern for Nika's enemies here, regardless of Ancient Fury. I'm not so certain these towers are going to do a whole lot to protect these fellas. 10,000 now, separating these two teams. And farm has completely ceased. I think we joined this stream, what, about 8 minutes ago now? And Nika was around level 13, level 12, still only hovering at 15, approaching 16, but hasn't really had the need to pick up any farm. Just content to run at enemies.
Yeah, Adapting and Dardes are up there at 17. It's a slow burn to levels, but why worry when you're fighting like this? The beats there from Nika to get the bludgeon off. The Eagles
Jeez.
rally. The follow-up good as well. Tower goes down. Genetics takes out Krakito. And Nika and the squad are slamming on the door of the Phoenix. I don't know how much that shock ultimate's actually going to do with dissuading them. Nika does get caught, though, and goes down.
Yeah, that new Hades ultimate, because it's so difficult to shut him down. Ymir, playing with some of those wall changes, actually knocks himself away from his own Phoenix and into the waiting arms of Nika's team. Be able to knock him down and the bird immediately afterward. But so early in the game, without a few more kills here, I'm not sure they'll be able to knock down the Titan.
Not going to stop him from stepping up, though. Already interested Adapting with a
The
kill onto the
kills.
Hades, making it a double kill for Adapting. A killing spree in all, and they're on the Titan from the Dia side. The Kern's going to respond. We'll see if Krakito's able to make a play happen to save it. Not going to be the case.
Big play.
Dardes with the kill, and Nika and the squad will just full all in that Titan and bring it down. So we tuned in at Back Harpies just to watch the Titan go down not much longer after. So Nika and the squad performing up to the expectations of those SPL squads.
I mean, that was it really was just a massive team-wide diff there. We didn't get to see how things started, where that lead started to develop. We jumped in, getting to watch Nika already essentially on the victory lap, I believe 5,000 up, and ends the game at nearly double that. So apologies on missing the beginning of that match, but hopefully get an idea of maybe what some of these matches are going to develop, as that is one of the most veteran teams we've got on the EMEA side of the bracket. These guys are easily favored to make it at least towards that finals, and proving it there with a 22-minute game win.
And like you said, we'll have the full games, full spectator here up soon, ready to go for you. And we talked about it a bit earlier, but I really want to dive in so deep on it. Of the starts are going to be what I'm so interested in seeing, because the idea of an invade meta feels so foreign now, so long in the distant memory of Smite 1. But the invade meta, love it or hate it, it certainly led to interesting spectator Smite.
Yeah, it's just nice to have somewhere where you can focus, your attention throughout the early portions of the game. You can set one person behind, decide to put the jungler behind, you can decide to put the mid laner behind, essentially just in their entire match. You inflict massive mental damage. The invade meta, I think, incredibly fun to watch. But with the timing, excuse me, of buffs in Smite 2, essentially spawning as waves meet, makes it a little bit more difficult to realize when that invade is actually going to work out in your favor, whether or not your enemies are actually on those camps, or if they decided to jam waves for pressure first.
Well, we can get a bit more traditional with it now. We have picks and bans ready to go between Mighty Five and Hex Mambo, which is, we talked about it leading up to this myth. Hex Mambo, one of the squads that we were the most excited to watch roster wise, and first ban out is a Hades, getting rid of it. No interest in one of the two new gods released.
I'm going to go ahead and run these rosters by you. Hex Mambo is comprised of Spudio in the Hunter role. Kha'Zix's going to play Guardian. Rapio will be playing mid. Johnny out of the jungle, one of the biggest talents out of the EU, SEC, and SPL. Vaporish Coast going to be playing solo lane. That's the Penta Kid from Smite 1 of massive Hunter success and reigning world champion in Smite 1 as well, deciding to switch things up and move over towards the soul lane. On the other hand, the Mighty Five is going to comprise of Mountain Man in the Hunter role, Geronimo. That's accurate. There's about 9 O's
that is
there.
Vouch.
Yep, out of the Guardian. Nyaki playing mid. You're going to have Mini God
This should be
playing
fun.
the jungle. And Adlet Mayor 666 straight out of the 9th circle of hell. Going to be holding it down in the soul lane.
I gotta
Is
say,
there a
you
distinct
locked in the
favorite?
Adlet
I
quick.
think so.
You locked in that Adlet real quick. I was very caught up on the 1 in Adlet's name, so I am color me impressed. But yeah, there is definitely a favorite here in Hex Mambo, which is what we were looking for today. Seeing some new names go up against the big boys and see if they can compete. And Mighty Five will have a task, but in that task, they've got Bologna, Loki, and Ymir. So they've got a trailer squad ready to go up against Hex Mambo. Hex Mambo on the other side, they chose to ban out that Fenrir, which is understandable. We talked about the sort of, traditionally speaking, thin approach to jungle right now if you look at just formerly assassins. But again, no traditional classes in Smite 2. You can improvise and take whatever you want into that jungle.
Yeah, for my money, I think Ymir might be the best jungler in Smite 2 right now. The damage output that he has, as well as his clear, just makes it so good throughout the early. He's always been pretty decent at jungle, even in Smite 1 when you're allowed to build him damage, and you're certainly allowed to do it here in Smite 2. Looking at compositions as they stand, it seems to me that Mighty Five is going to have a slightly easier time playing the kite role. They want to play hit and run. They don't necessarily want to meet Hex Mambo on even ground. Ymir can separate these engagements.
Glory
so
to Athens!
Just keeping that damage peppered in, and then Loki and Bologna are going to do their own thing, essentially as solo agents in the back line. Whereas Hex Mambo, on the other hand, dash taunt from Athena if anyone's low, drop a cage. You got that classic Zeus Odin combo with massive circles from Chalk to follow up on it as well. This is a very scary high damage output nuke composition from Hex Mambo.
Well, we got our peek into Nika's stream, but now we've got 2 team comps in front of us. Mighty Five versus Hex Mambo. Let's head into game and see some Smite 2 esports from our spectator. It's Anthony, Mifflin, and Air Doug flying around to give us the free cam view of the battleground of the gods in Smite 2. Mifflin, we're going to have an interesting one watching these lanes, but we have a bird's eye view for it as well. No invades coming out, though. Right away, an interest in the lane.
Yeah, we are very early in the development cycle here, so spectator support, it's pretty tough. Doug's going to be earning his paycheck today. Everything you see is manually input. Every movement of the camera, he can't snap across the map. We're going to be flying the old-fashioned way. Doug, if I were you, I mean, maybe try and stick with junglers a little bit later on if you want to follow the action, but it's going to be tough. We'll try our best to get you the best views absolutely possible with this action already. Here in the solo lane, seems like Chalk and Bologna have been running at it. Don't expect to see too much from the Bologna, at least throughout the early, especially with Vaporish Coast electing to go down that int path. You see him with some intelligence in that first slot, give him additional scaling on his heal. That is a lot of sustain to play with.
Chalk right now does feel very oppressive to go against in solo. Bologna is, of course, a great answer from Atlas, but Chalk, just the way that Chalk is able to sustain both through mana using that passive, as well as, of course, the heal, never fun to go against and tough to work around, especially as you're early in items. So we'll see if Atlas able to make that work. But let's fly over. Let's peek in. Let's check out Duo Lane and see what's going on here. We got ourselves the Soul. Mountain Man rocking it. Soul is one of those 2 new gods brought to Smite 2 with this alpha weekend, and going with a bow early on, so considering working into attack speed. And there's a lot of options with Soul as well. You have a bit of a scuffle. Loki, kind of in no man's land. Back by this red buff. Owen gonna jump but go wide, not gonna find the invis Loki. The response okay so far, and Loki's down below half health, so Minigog having a problem. Does have to get out of there. But considering going back in,
does elect to do a little bit more damage, but one of Loki's major shortcomings throughout the early game is lack of burst potential. Won't quite be able to 100-0 his target just yet, but with the rotation of Ymir, Geronimo locking him down.
And Minigog does sidestep that spear, looking for the kill, and they're going to find it. First blood goes to Mighty Five, bringing it to Hex Mambo. Not who I would have had my first blood wager on.
No, that was a really, really good rotation there from Geronimo, getting active towards the center of the map. Sacrifices a little bit of farm in the duo lane, but just allows his ADC to get a little bit more farm himself. And the fight potential so early on display here. Kha'Zix, good peel with the taunt, but Spudio caught regardless.
We'll see if Geronimo can set up here for Mountain Man to make a play happen off the back of it, but instead Geronimo getting turned on, getting dropped low. Will they get dropped down? Kha'Zix going for the chase, but there's the rocket jump. That's what Smite 2 Ymir can bring, is an actual way to get out of dodge when it's required.
Yep, so now when that wall spawns up, it will apply a knock up to anyone essentially at the feet of the wall. So you can knock up enemies, either away from you or towards you, or you can knock yourself away from your allies or enemies, or even use it as a dash to get a little bit closer. There's a lot more mobility available to Ymir.
A lot more indeed, and wow, another kill gonna go that way of Hex Mambo. Make it 2, actually, as Spudio gonna find one across the map. That's 2 kills for Hex Mambo, right as we were singing praises of Mighty Five for getting that first blood. It does get turned around, and that's the danger of going against a squad like Hex Mambo. You can never rest on those laurels. You've got to be ever present of the map around you and where Hex Mambo are choosing to take their engagements.
Well, Anthony, I think I figured out the spectator bug now, and it's maybe every single member of Mighty Five, barring Geronimo, has had their HP bars removed. So if someone's fighting and there's no HP bar, it's an easy way to track it for us and the viewers at home. Again, this is very early on in the development cycle, so we're bound to run into some visual glitches and things of the like. That's the flavor of the show here today. Mighty Five still doing a good job playing regardless. Doesn't affect them. It's only affecting the spectators. So the competitive integrity of the match still certainly there. Hex Mambo, though, showing their veteranship, even in spite of falling down early for first blood, fighting back in and clawing their way back into the lead.
And getting a gold lead like that and only growing it, now sitting around 700 for Hex Mambo. That's going to be important. Could even find more, and they should indeed. The Neath ult committed as well, but the Loki is able to get the ultimate away. Will he drop down? Yes, Rapio able to secure it with that lightning storm. Can kill a get out though, as the Odin was in a bad spot. Geronimo does trade places, and Geronimo is the one to go down. Rapio picking up 2 in that fight.
One of the major changes to Athena there actually comes into play. The ultimate giving over an HP shield to whoever you hit with it does keep the Odin alive just long enough to get that cage down and reinitiate the fight. Communication and execution here from Hex Mambo on clear display as Soul slain in her own tower. Speaking of towers, you might notice something with those HP bars, a little bit more gold to be collected there. Each threshold of that tower going to give over about 200 or so gold, or 50 apiece if you split it. Meaning that, man, do the math for me, Anthony. I'm so terrible at it. I think it's around 500 for an individual. They knock it down, and then once you actually knock down the tower itself, will go over to about 100 gold each player across the map. This does, in theory, speed up gold spooling here in Smite 2. Could allow for some of these games to go a bit faster.
I, for one, have been one to int for tower bounties. But hey, Adlet combining there with Minigog to bring down Vaporish Coast. So Mighty Five, they are not making this easy. The gold is being kept intact for the moment. We are seeing a lead that is sporadically growing for Hex Mambo as they're taking these engagements. We see the 5-2, but Mighty Five has certainly not looked in a bad spot. At least given the circumstances.
Could certainly be worse. Beads expended there by Kukulkan, as well as a bit of a panic ultimate back towards his enemies, but won't connect with the enemy gods, does clip at least 1 minion, but losing out on that ultimate could create an opportunity now for Hex Mambo to either force another engagement or maybe start looking towards some of these neutral objectives. Instead, it will be a reset back towards neutral. The laning phase being a bit longer here in Smite 2 is something I'm a major fan of. You're going to see a lot more 1v1s between ADCs. You'll see a lot more 1v1s over in the soul lane. Junglers will still find a way to get their dirty little mitts involved, but it's a bit harder.
You called it perfect. The jungler with the dirty mitts looking for Spudio on that Neath. The ultimate committed, but the beads was used well enough to get away. Meanwhile, other side, hang on for Air Dug to get there. A couple kills have already gone down. Hex Mambo now at 6-3, and they might have a Bologna not far away if they can catch on to Adlet, who does get to the tower safely.
I'm really just enjoying some of the visual changes here in Smite 2 as well. I mean, you don't really get to see all of it when you're on the ground playing, but getting this air dug view, as you've coined it, I mean, the trees are beautiful. The graphical fidelity, Unreal 5 has really allowed the artists here on Smite 2 to do so much more.
Perfect time to see just how beautiful that Storm Call is. Sometimes you can let the sounds speak for themselves, and Vape Coast letting the play speak for itself, getting up the solo kill onto Adlet in that solo lane. So for Mighty 5, now it's 3-7, and they're starting to drop like flies. We'll see if they can lock in a bit. The Spear of the Nine Winds not going to do too much to stop Rapio, but the wall from Geronimo was good enough to protect the Yaki on that Cuckoo. The Yaki definitely, give flowers to your supports, folks, for sure.
Yeah, support is one of the highest impact roles in the game right now. Feels like you can get a lot of really effective active items really early on. Pick up a Sentry Ward with the Oracle or anything like that. You can get a Hassan's Wings and really start maneuvering the map as well. There's a lot of opportunities for support to get really, really involved.
Geronimo caught out. Oof. The wall, actually almost a bit of an own goal there for Geronimo. Luckily, was able to step away. Hex Mambo looked like they might have considered if they could dive, but instead just wisely choosing to go for farm instead to keep up that gold lead that they've been holding at between 3 and 4 3 and 4,000 for a while now.
Yeah, and they're really making good use of that gold. You can see the new component system in Smite 2. You can get an idea of what direction some of these guys are going in the build, but it's not like Smite 1 where you'd see a mace and say, okay, well, it's guaranteed to be Jotuns. Or you see a short blade and you're like, all right, Executioner's coming up. There's 2 bows in pocket for Spud. There's a few magical attack speed items that he could be looking towards if he wants to stick with the intelligence scaling. Could go for a hybrid build, start moving in towards something like a Kitten's Blades or an Executioner or something like that. But what we do know for certain is that he's attacking often.
Geronimo gonna go down, just looking to create opportunities for Mighty 5 as well as keep their team safe, and it just has not been working out too perfectly. Hex Mambo up to 9 as another one goes the way of Rapio. 3 kills for the Zeus, 3 for the Odin. Hex Mambo are really starting to lock into that pace of play that we were expecting to see out of names so familiar.
And it's tough now for Mighty 5 because you have to think, how do we address the problems on Hex Mambo? How do we get towards Rapio in that backline? Who's going to burn the beads, and how do we make use of it, essentially? If EMEA tries to close gap, if Geronimo tries to catch Rapio, I'm not certain that he's going to survive just the raw damage output with the build path he's elected to go. So it's going to be difficult for him to burn through those beads. You could trade Minigog's ultimate on that Loki. Say, look, you're probably not going to survive it, but maybe next rotation of it, you can knock down this Zeus, but it certainly will not be easy. And then there's the question of follow-up at that. Niaki on Kukulkan, in theory, great with Spirit of the Nine Winds, just knock it down, stun into ultimate every single time. Issue is, your Kukulkan's level 8. It's not exactly doing 100% of Rapio's HP just yet. When the enemy support is the same or higher level as your mid, doesn't look good.
Rapio stepping back and getting the fadeaway shots with the help of Kha'Zix will bring down Geronimo yet again. The Zeus is just doing too much, and as you said, there's nobody really to dive onto that Zeus, because even when you do it, all of a sudden, here's the backup to keep you away. And the fighting duo not going much better either, as Spudio's able to bring down Minigog. And Mountain Man just calling a retreat, still really just rocking attack speed. Two bows, a Manchu's bow, and a dagger of frenzy. So Soul's definitely playing the long con, looking to get some strength, some autos, and potentially some crits online later down the road. But at least for the moment, Mountain Man is playing for the end game.
Yeah, I love the dagger of frenzy as well. It's one of the new active items here in Smite 2. Of course, each one of your items, not all of them, but a lot of them, will have active effects available to you, essentially working as a relic, but built into your item tree. Dagger of Frenzy just gives you additional attack speed and power on every auto attack.
More trouble for Niaki. Down low and just getting run down by Johnny. That's tough there for the Odin to pick up another one, and the Loki not looking too far behind it. Mountain Man gonna go. Loki should be soon to follow. Minigog will go down. Double kill for Rapio. 14 now for Hex Mambo, racking up the kills.
You know, there was a lot of rumblings about, Friends League in Smite 1. These guys are only competitive because they're boys. I think this is a pretty decent argument for a few things. Smite 2, still certainly Smite. The veteran player is having a great go of it here. And 2, these guys are just clearly very good, very coordinated on the map. Seems to me that Hex Mambo's speed of play is really what's catching Mighty 5 unawares. They're not quite ready to have a 3-man stack on their speed buff, or 4 people just maneuvering near the Gold Fury, catching rotations towards these sides of the map or towards the center of the map. It's caught Geronimo out a few times here as well. Rapio again going uncontested at level 12, still has access to the beads, and is just farming up so well.
Geronimo taunted back, does find a 2-man
beads.
stun. The beads, though, to stop it, and Rapio is able to find a home with the lightning. Now Niaki bravely stepping up, but that's going to bring out a Neath ultimate. The Spear of the 9 Winds is not going to find a home, but Minigog will find Rapio, finally doing what Myth called for before, being the one to take out Rapio, get some kind of damage onto that Zeus. So it's something. That's 4 kills now for the Mighty 5, and they're still, at least for my worth, they're keeping gold in check. Myth, it could be significantly worse. It was at 3K for a while. Now we're sitting at 6K. But this Gold Fury that Hex Mambo is pulling, seemingly without much contest on the horizon, we're starting to get in that significant territory for Hex Mambo.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really difficult now for Mighty 5 to find a way to fight back in. A byproduct of this component item system as well is that you can just buy whatever stats you want. You don't necessarily need to itemize towards cooldown early on. If you're going for a cooldown item, you can just build up all that power, meaning that the team that is ahead is going to continue to hit harder regardless of whether or not they can actually finish out an item in its entirety. So a lot of damage at play now for Hex Mambo, a good bit of CDR. That's OG Mirrodin picked up for Spudio, so there's a lot of magical nuke damage available to him as well. The item that looks like Doom Orb essentially does the same thing, just a massive infusion of power. So there is a lot of Mighty 5 contending with here as Rapio, I mean, unperturbed, walks back to the scene of the crime. He's back on the tier 1 tower line, right where he had died previously, and said, hey man, here's the thing about how you're 3 levels down. Your ultimate does not hurt him. It just takes the fight and knocks him down easily.
17 for Hex Mambo, but 7 of Rapio on that Zeus. Minigog is just trying to harass Rapio at any given opportunity, but they just are not there, at least for the time being. Now, another thing for Hex Mambo that I'm finding to be really impressive, and you touched on this, is a lot of their builds they're making use of a lot of items that just simply have a lot of stats. Making use of a fight in duo with Spudio, no fear, with Kha'Zix near, and they'll bring down Mountain Man for even attempting to look in their direction. Minigog now in the danger of being a Loki and just attempting to find a safe place to stay. With Geronimo around, it does give an opportunity, and they will both get away. But Hex Mambo actually looking at running into Minigog. And the Neath ultimate gonna hit, the beads will come out, but Kha'Zix still has the taunt online, and Geronimo, once again, a familiar sight myth, will sacrifice himself. There's the own goal, there's the Odin cage. Geronimo will go down.
Should do.
Right.
Odin,
Right?
leap, not there. He will
Okay.
eventually fall. Killa, able to pick him up. Johnny, having a bit of fun with his team name, knocks him down. Clean stuff for Hex Mambo all the way across the map. You might be wondering, how did Kha'Zix just get involved over in the soul lane? He had already used his ultimate. He was just there on the duo side. It's that portal right there, Doug highlighting on your map. Just delivering him all the way over to the right-hand side as the fight continues on the left. Minigog sacrificed himself in the attempt to knock down Spud. We'll eventually have it cleaned up by Mountain Man, but at what cost?
Now Johnny taking a low health battle with Mountain Man, but the attack speed is real good, and now backup is here, and Mountain Man's able to bring down Johnny.
Man, did you see that new Kukulkan play as well? Niaki's showing off some of the new mechanics here in Smite 2.
Dash.
The dash out of Tornado.
So good.
It bodes incredibly well for what our designers are going to be able to do with other minor reworks on Gods, right? Like, maybe you're not the most excited about just having a standard dash. And for those of you uninitiated, how does it work? Normally, Kukulkan, when he presses his 2, it just gets a little bit of a speed boost and slow immunity. He's able to maneuver the map very well. If he's inside of his Tornado, while he uses the 2, activates it in the Tornado, turns into a dash. Those conditional abilities is real interesting to see.
Conditional fight for Rapio. The condition is getting that Zeus damage across, but not given the opportunity to do so. Mighty 5 taking out the 7-1 Zeus, giving the second death that way. Vape Coast will rotate on over. There's the Athena ultimate, bringing that new shield as well, giving Vape Coast even more reason to dive on in, and will find the kill onto Adlet. Geronimo will chase out Kha'Zix. This wall is real good, and Minigog will combine to take out the Athena. Mighty 5 do have some fight in them, Myth.
Cut that gold lead just below 5k now. A separated engagement for Hex Mambo. But Raid Boss, Porsche Coast, still around. Likely will be able to survive this, especially with the rotation now from his Odin. Could even potentially look to turn this around.
Might be wise for Niaki to get out of there, but Loki, no interest in doing the same thing. Gets caught in that Odin cage. And see ya indeed. No more mini Gog on the map for the moment. So every time Mighty 5 have a good fight, it feels like they kind of get caught sticking around a little bit too long, looking for a bit more. I wouldn't say greedy. I'm not in greedy territory yet, but I'm definitely knocking on the door in a lot of these engagements.
Yeah, the issue is for Mighty 5, any fight that goes well likely will take an incredibly long time. They just have more HP they have to burn through on the side of Hex Mambo. They've got their higher level, their HP bars are bigger, they have more items, so any fight is going to take you a few more rotations of your own abilities. You do less damage, you have less HP, so it gives so much time for Hex Mambo to rotate back in towards these fights. Spud able to make himself scarce here and make use of the tall grass to slip away into the darkness of night. Nice attempt there from Geronimo to try and lock him down. With nobody nearby, I think exactly in a position to really deal with Spud.
They're looking for Geronimo. There's the Neath ultimate as well. Geronimo just caught looking for something. We'll go down to Kha'Zix. So kill for the Athena. You would think there wouldn't be a lot in Athena. Well, you'd be wrong. That's 4 now for Kha'Zix. Everybody's getting a taste for Hex Mambo. They're going to walk over to that Gold Fury. We'll see if Mighty 5 even dare. Mini Gog is around, but this is a risky engagement for the Loki. Does get found, but ults back through the wall. Looking for anything, was looking for Rapio, could not find the kill. Instead, it's taken out by Spud.
Meanwhile, Vaporish Coast on zone patrol has lost the majority of his HP, keeping those enemies at bay. Kukulkan would have loved to have get involved, maybe get in range, throw that ultimate for a steal attempt, but never given the chance.
Wow. Every time you blink, there's a kill. Vape Coast takes out Mountain Man. The cage will catch the Cuckoo. Niaki is going nowhere. Hex Mambo just wanted to do the gold, but they'll take the 4 kills alongside of it. This gold lead now is past danger territory for Mighty 5, to say the least. When the Gold Fury falls down, you'll see we're well into 13,000 for Hex Mambo.
Excuse me for getting sentimental, but it really is heartwarming to see that Smite 2 is still Smite. You know, the classic, we're behind, conveyor belt, rotation in towards the Gold Fury, still there, still have the features on the map that we saw in Smite 1 as well. Gonna look at the Finch. This is good stuff, man. All that knowledge you've accumulated over the last 11 to 12 years of playing Smite 1 clearly still applies and is working well for the veterans of Hex Mambo. Just setting up the traditional classic iron wall frontline defense, wait for a few members of Mighty 5 to perhaps trinkle through, slip past Vaporish Coast, and then look for those all-in engagements immediately afterward. Johnny's been an absolute menace on this Odin. There's been no answer to the cage. Everyone's separated on Mighty 5, and 5 versus 1, 10,000 gold down. I'm going to go with the 5. Regardless of the versus 1 scenario. Mighty 5 needs to find some way to play a bit more grouped, or perhaps even go for a split push. Try and separate the map.
Vape Coast in a 2v1, but might not be 2 against the odds. Kha'Zix was on the way, but Geronimo was able to find the kill quick enough. But Hex Mambo still rotating over. They've got Rapio there. They've got the Lightning Storm, and the detonate charges. Is it going to be enough when it comes back up to take out Geronimo? No, it was down for too long. Hex Mambo will look for a new entryway into this fight at this tier 2 tower. And the Mighty 5, wisely so, just going to back up. They did pick up a response tier 1 over in the dual lane.
He did. It's a little bit more global gold in the pocket there for everyone involved. Surprised to see Hex Mambo not elect to just go ahead and pull the Fire Giant or force an engagement there. Doesn't seem to me that they're under much pressure to make any decision like that either. Another free pickup on that solo side of the map, as Spud is essentially doing whatever he wants. 9, 1, and 4 alone on the tier 2. Forces a 3-man rotation, 4th man in the grave, and it just makes himself scarce regardless. Heads back to base. Hex Mambo, essentially for my money, can do no wrong on the map.
One of my favorite comms right now in Smite 2, as we just saw Kha'Zix use, is those blessings. No matter how late in the game it is, everybody likes getting 30 gold in pocket. So on either side of the map and one in the mid lane, you can grab and interact with those blessings to give your team, everybody gets 30 gold. So no matter where you're at, even if you're up well over 12,000 gold, make sure you grab it because it brings smiles to your teammates. And that's really the most important thing.
You're denying it to the enemies as well, so maybe they would have had a bit of a comeback potential. Instead, taken away. Bologna trying to get out of there, uses the ultimate to escape. Geronimo's been on point with these walls, but still finds himself in the cage.
Blink for Blink, and everybody's in the cage. So the Blink just brought you closer. Vape Coast will handle Adlet, Geronimo, the Emir. We salute you, but down he goes. 32 kills for Hex Mambo. We'll see if Minigog is able to find anybody out, but the Bush doing wonders for Hex Mambo on the back, the low health bars. Mighty Five have got to do something to contest this looming fire giant that seems like it's becoming more and more of a probability with wards going down and the positioning of Hex Mambo myth, but I don't really see a world where they can.
No, the answer they've elected to go for is chase Vaporish Coast around. Hopefully, maybe someone spots the fire giant pool, and they do. Kukulkan turns that corner, so it's a reset instead fight for Hex Mambo.
Rapio instantly able to bring down Niyaki. Vape Coast is dealing with Mountain Man and is somehow surviving despite the attack speed, but Mountain Man locks in on the autos and takes out that Chalk. Minigog didn't have the same luck and Spud made short work of the Loki. Now Mountain Man will run into the rest of Hex Mambo and back up to the teammates that are nearby. The taunt is good, but the beads will come out, if not a bit late. Didn't matter when you get blown up like that by Rapio. Hex Mambo are hitting like trucks. They've gotten to late game so much faster, and the effects are showing. The last one standing is going to be Geronimo, and I don't even know how long it's going to be when a taunt like that hits. Next, Mambo look to bring down the final member. Won't quite be a deicide as Niyaki respond, but damage done.
My heart goes out to Geronimo, tries to pre-beads the taunt. Unfortunately for him, Spud either didn't have the cooldown available, Kha'Zix didn't have the cooldown available or was waiting it out. Regardless, able to knock him down. Mighty Five notched their 10th, but Hex Mambo rapidly approaching 40 kills across the top of your screen. Gotta think Fire Giant will be a mercy now to Mighty Five. Allow Hex Mambo to try and begin their siege. These neutral territory jungle team fights are just not going Mighty Five's way, and they likely won't, considering the AoE potential of Hex Mambo's draft. Zeus is just incredibly powerful in these jungle corridors, as is Neath. Whereas on the other hand, Kukulkan, a master at jungle corridor team fights in Smite 1 with these more open jungle lanes. A little bit more difficult to lock down entire pathways with that tornado, so a much easier target, I think, for Hex Mambo to go ahead and try and isolate on the map. But once you get towards tier 2 tower defenses or Phoenix defenses, Kukulkan's strengths, as we have become accustomed to over the course of a decade in Smite 1, tend to rear their head again here in Smite 2. You can keep those waves out very easily. High poke potential. It's not easy to siege into the dragon. So I think Mighty Five allowing the Fire Giant to go down, probably a decent call.
Fire Giant around the belts of Hex Mambo, as you can see by the spooky images on the right-hand side by their god icons. And with Fire Giant on all 5, items stacked up like crazy for Hex Mambo. As you mentioned, we're right on the cusp of 40 kills. They're also getting closer and closer to being able to get that Ancient Fury online. Mighty Five, dire straits, will look for anything they can find. They'll look for Rapio, but the Athena ultimate is the instant response. And that defender is certainly protecting Olympus. The shield was too much for Mighty Five to crack. And Geronimo just says, all right, never mind, my bad, and jumps on out.
Yeah, he's got to be careful here. Kha'Zix dash taunt. Charged up. Instead, going in with a cage. Double backflip from Spud to close gap, and Geronimo never stood a chance. Vaporish Coast, credit for the kill this time around. Tanking up the Phoenix, and for what?
We have the technology. Double Neath backflip to get closer to you and shatter your hopes. And that's the Hex Mambo play, and Spud makes it work. 13 kills will be total for the Neath, as 40 has been clocked by Hex Mambo. And it's capped off with a Phoenix in the mid lane. They've got 2 pesky tier 2 towers to deal with, and it looks like they're going to take that safe route to go and do it. They do have our favorite item, man. They've got the Mushroom, that second item slot for Kha'Zix, the Mantius Charm. So they got Sustain as well.
Essentially the new age answer to meditation. Instead of it being centered around the god itself, you place a little mushroom on the map. He's your buddy. He'll heal you up, give you some of that mana back as well. We saw it used around that mid Phoenix there. just a moment ago. Dash taunt connects on a Geronimo. Neath ultimate into the backline to separate.
Oh, where'd he go? Geronimo? No, Mo. Mighty 5. Just dire straits, no response. Hex Mambo ready to end this game and move on in that bracket. Mountain Man will follow suit. Rapio gets that Phoenix in the solo lane. And Hex Mambo seem to no longer want to wait. There's that mushroom taken away for the sustain. There's the Bologna taking a graycation to wait out the end of this game. And Hex Mambo just running circles now around that throne room to begin to whittle down the Titan, and they will start that final siege. They're not completely healthy all across, and they've got a Loki pestering them. Vapeco says, I have a plan. Kazik says, I got you. Ults in. They bring down Minigog. Geronimo will look for any kills on the way out. Cannot find it. Rapio with one more detonate to seal the deal on that end of it. Niyaki steps out of fountain. That might have been a mistake. Just get back in this fountain. I promise it's safer there, as Hex Mambo are close to finally bringing down this Titan in the throne room. Niyaki gets the idea. The game goes to Hex Mambo.
Hex Mambo ending it with a 20,000 gold lead, just about exactly at the end of that match. Clean stuff to them. I mean, a stumble for first blood, and that was the only speed bump they ran into in the entirety of this match. Just clean play all the way across the board. Scaling was perfect. I mean, the nuke style of play clearly still works in Smite 2. Dash taunt into Zeus damage and Neath damage seems to be a combo that will work out pretty consistently going forward, especially with the lower cast characters here in Smite 2. As of now, the OGs win the day.
But shouts to Mighty 5. Nobody can ever take away that first blood from you.
True.
It's immortalized. That's how it is. But Hex Mambo are still looking strong. I mean, throughout the day for both EMEA as well as NA, those teams comprised of the SPL players, as you mentioned, Friends League, those players are going to be the ones to watch. But I do genuinely believe wholeheartedly there's going to be a roster, maybe more than a single one, for both regions that will step up, will cause surprises. And until we get to that point, sure, SPL favorites, root them on, but telling you, there's a surprise in store somewhere today. There's just no way there isn't.
Some threats lurking in the water, maybe some old console players coming back, or the SOC trying to make some representation here in Smite 2, or just brand new names altogether. We've always had throughout Smite's history some players that everyone said, well, maybe they could just be the best, but they're not exactly competing. This is an opportunity for them to do so. And just a reminder, as we jump into the bracket, every single one of these games, until we start to get a little bit further on into those finals, are going to be best of ones. So Hex Mambo will now be up against Leeds Rhinos in the semis, as they have eliminated the Mighty 5 from today's running.
Definitely, I already did mention the kudos to Mighty 5, but FSN was a very, very stacked roster for EMEA. So Mighty 5 have pulled through. I'm surprised to have seen Variety's team go down there. But Leeds Rhinos, Hex Mambo will fight it out unguided and sack the set on the other side of the semifinals. We're going to go to, as Miff said, those best of 3 grand finals. So we're getting closer to NA, but EU has put on a show up to this point. And, with honestly the upset from Mighty 5 to FSN, with the first blood we saw, with the new state, finals could really be up in the air for anybody.
Could be. And again, as a reminder, the Leeds Rhinos are going to be a massive stacker of a team as well. That's Streak Up, Genetics, Dardes, Adapting, and Nika up against, of course, Hex Mambo, who you just had the opportunity to watch play. On the other side, Unguided, we've got a bit of newer names there. Maybe the upset you're calling for, Anthony. We've got Just Lion, Akamis, Starpawn. That's Drake again. We talked about him a little bit earlier. And this says Paul. Paul is a North American. I'm not sure if this Paul is the same Paul, but there is a Paul on Unguided. And then if Smite 1's any indicator, if your name's Paul, you're generally just very, very good at the game. Sack the Set, on the other hand, is going to be Taduin, Eye Silence, Gunter, Apriel, and Deathwalker, SEC representatives and players that have represented the Hex Mambo motif in the past.
The lore runs deep in the EU side of the tournament, which of course it does. Of course it does. I mean, how could it not? But I'm this Hex Mambo Leeds Rhinos game is just that's going to be a heck of a game. We will have Sack the Set and Unguided around the corner, and that's sure to to really be a great one, Myth.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this one. I mean, you got again Paul, as you said earlier, big
Yes.
name, big shoes to fill there.
The
W-
biggest shoes, yeah.
Not certain you know, that's the goat. There are a lot of Pauls across the world, so we'll have to see. And they've certainly got their work cut out for him on the other side. I mean, there is 3 stacker teams, 3 OG teams still in the tournament, and Unguided is the squad that's trying to find an upset.
Hey, if there was any day to do it, the Alpha Weekend 2 tournament, Myth, that is your day to do it. I mean,
We
the
got to get a better
potential's
name.
there.
We got to do better than Alpha
You know, you were
Weekend 2
talking about that
tournament.
yesterday too. That was your podium, and you know, go ahead, take the podium.
I'm a big marketing guy. Love marketing. Love
Okay.
selling things. Love
Sure.
getting movement in the markets. And you know, Alpha Weekend 2. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to me like it would read
All right,
well on a
well, let's
billboard.
workshop.
Oh man, Alpha Weekend 2. A2, Smite 2. On
A2 Smite 2. Okay.
A2, Smite 2. Sometimes you hit it the first time. You know.
Yeah. You know, the workshop isn't quite on fire just yet.
No, I think
We-
we nailed it there. A2, we date Smite 2.
I can hear the scrambling to update the graphics and you know, get the A2 logo.
Yeah, I've
working.
made a lot of work for a lot of people by doing that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. That's okay. When you workshop a name like that, how could you not?
I mean, I print money, surely. Look, chat,
yeah.
anybody over there, you guys got any tournament name ideas?
If you can top A2 Smite 2, of course.
You can't. You can't. I mean, perfection has been achieved, but if you
Yeah,
want
just
to
like Mighty
try,
5 though, you can try.
Yeah. Oh, poor Mighty 5.
You might even get first blood.
Too
I-
soon, too
No,
soon.
I mean, I loved watching them play. Some of the plays they were attempting to go for, I mean, it's really it's scary, you know? It's a good word for it because it's scary to go up against players like that and really find your way in, your situations to take. We saw the attempts at the Gold Fury. The Fire Giant fight was one though that I kind of wanted to work our way back to, Myth, because that fight was weird for me because we never did see a chance for a contest there. But the new spacing of that Fire Giant pit, the door towards the back of the Fire Giant, I feel like we're going to see a lot of scary situations and potential steal situations the later we get in the day.
Yeah, it's almost the exact opposite of what we saw in the Smite 1 alpha all the way back in 2012, where it was a closed concept, fire giant, essentially a volcano where there was one
Yeah.
entrance. We now have an open concept, much more modern here in Smite 2, where you can essentially approach the fire giant from any direction, as well as that interactable door that you were mentioning just a moment ago. So there are a lot of opportunities for you to keep people guessing around the fire giant. The pit being larger now does allow for individuals to slip past. The issue I think we saw Mighty 5 run into is that they were playing into a 15,000 gold deficit. So the one guy standing between them and Fire Giant one guide them, for lack of a better term. So couldn't quite work past a porous coast, and anyone who did ran into the other 4 guys who had 6,000 more gold in each of their pockets individually. So it was a team fight that maybe wasn't meant to work out for them, but certainly does show some potential of what we can see in the future.
We did also see the blaster blow up Neath you were talking about come out
Love
from
it.
Spud into the soul, and there is one less traditional option for ADC as On Her is disabled for this tournament. So no On Her today. But the options that are there are, to me, a bit more interesting than the face value. One thing we saw in the mid lane was Zeus. We saw Rapio we actually saw some sort of hybrid items coming out of Rapio. And obviously it was working. But things like ADC Zeus right now, they're in a viable spot and they're really fun to play too. And the situations you can create as a speedy blaster Zeus getting in and then dropping Gatling lightning, kind of underrated.
You know, I'm glad that you bring this up as well, because I got into an argument with a math guy on Reddit recently. He was telling me, look, Crit Zeus Smite 2, highest DPS in the game. It's the most consistent. You're not going to be able to match it with any other style build. And I raise you that you're not landing all of your auto attacks, but you will at least find, you know, your second ability is going to connect. You can hit one tick of the ultimate. The detonate will be there. And the burst damage of Magical Zeus, I think, is something people are sleeping on. I've seen a lot of buzz around Kinsblade, Crit Zeus, running it down, shredding tanks, and it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's obviously insane. Aggro, known Zeus fanboy, if you've been watching Smite for a long time, has made the transition from talent piece and caster over towards design and has absolutely infected their brains with maybe one of the most disgusting Zeuses I've ever seen.
See, now you
Great,
sound like Reddit.
looks good. Yeah, I sound like it's where I live. You're a reflection of your environment. And he's just done it, and Zeus is crazy right now. But don't sleep on Magic Zeus. He still works.
Definitely worked out for Rapio. And the solo lane matchup we saw, that was tradition in its finest. Chalk v Bologna, being tanky, doing tanky things. And Bologna is somebody who I've seen, I feel like, go in the widest variety of roles. I've seen ADC Bolognas, I've seen support Bolognas running through. Jungle Bologna has been incredible in every game I've seen it in, really. I can't think of many, high level scrims I was watching over the last couple of days or whatever it may be, where Bologna Jungle, when it was getting picked up, was performing on the lower end of a team.
Yeah, first off, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the Smite community to you. Can't believe someone made you deal with Bologna in either of the duo roles. So that's on us as a community, a failure on our part. So again, apologies. Bologna solo, though, still pretty good. I love seeing Bologna out of the jungle. Keep her there. Don't play her in any other roles. I know Smite 2 is real adventurous, but that god in particular, I think I would really prefer to see limited in roles, even though itemization has allowed her to go for different styles in those roles.
Absolutely, yeah. Bologna's still doing Bologna things, but looking to see her in more roles. I'm trying to go through the roster in my brain myth and think of more interesting scenarios, but what better way than getting into picks and bans for our next matchup and actually seeing where these teams decide to go. We got Unguided versus Sack this set, as we mentioned, another stacked matchup. Fenrir going to be the first ban out.
Yeah, Fenrir seems to be one of the consistents here, and it's something that we had talked about briefly in the first match, was the value of CC and how it applies, and Fenrir's ultimate is the highest value CC in Smite 2 right now. To be able to reposition somebody while simultaneously being CC immune and having a little bit of additional protections really makes it easy for Fenrir to be the guy who said, oh, this person's beads is burnt. Doesn't matter if it's a tank or if it's a carry, I'll bring them to our backline and they'll die. So Fenrir, very, very valuable right now. On the other hand, Sack the Set has elected to ban out that Hades, the sustain that Hades has, as well as the insane mobility. They talked about it briefly on the dev show, but how his ultimate works, allowing you to cast any one of his standard abilities once in the ultimate. I mean, you could leap in, ult, leap again, Mirrodin, leap again. You got triple jump. If you blinked first, it's essentially quadra jump. There's a lot of play on map there available to Hades, and something Sack the Set has elected not to deal with.
I like that the Loki giggled to the quadra jump, I gotta say. Honestly, shouts to Loki for having your back. I giggled too, but my giggle was a bit more silent. You deserve the giggle for the joke. I gotta,
Thank you.
Gotta give the flowers where it's due. Hades being banned is gonna be something I feel like we see a lot today. But the Soul getting through is still interesting to me because I feel like Soul is a top performer lying in wait. It's just about locking down that right build. There's so many options for Soul. I feel like teams are having a hard time making the most use out of her kit.
I agree, because you're in an awkward spot now with Soul, where in Smite 1, a lot of players are so used to, I'll just build int, doesn't even matter, I'll go full mage, my auto attacks are still going to slam. But if you really want your auto attacks to be your primary source of DPS on Soul, you kind of have to look a little bit more towards some of those strength scaling items, and then you're sacrificing some of the changes that Soul has received in Smite 2, namely in that first ability being such a large ring now, allows it to be a genuine DPS ability. Ticking for a 60 late game, not exactly impressive if you have elected to go for Crit Soul that shreds objectives. But if you're playing Mage Soul and it's ticking for 250 and it's nearly the size of an Odin cage, you're going to hit 3-4 ticks before they're able to walk out of the center of it. All the while, you can stack up your slow from the second ability or the knockup from the ultimate. Mage Soul is a massive threat, sacrificing a bit in structure DPS and an objective DPS, but really makes up for it, I think, in poke potential as well as just straight up PvP potential.
PvP potential is what you need in early alpha weekend matchups. That's kind of the thing of it. It's, you go back in old Smite 1 and you see the same thing in competitive. Very high kill games of figuring out the map and what to do, how to maneuver, where to go, when. And again, there is always that looming potential of an invade meta. You put all those things in a pot and you get bloodbaths. It's kind of the key to it. And for the side of Unguided so far, that's a very damage-forward composition. I feel like they're relying a lot on the Athena.
Yeah, I mean, Athena is the sole initiator here, as far as I'm concerned. CERN's got really good follow-up CC. The ultimate polymorph is going to be really, really good off the back of a taunt. You can have Valona lock people down. Once someone's hit by Athena, there's a lot of things that can happen to them immediately afterward, but the options for initiation are relatively limited, whereas Sack the Set essentially has 2 guaranteed initiators, Bacchus and Chalk, to start off your fight, and if they burn anybody's relic, Loki, acting as a solo agent, has the ability with Assassinate to go ahead and initiate himself, go in with the ultimate, find the stun, deal the DPS that he needs. So I think as far as ease of play is concerned, Sack the Set has a much easier to play composition. Zeus is largely self-sufficient in the back line. Neith can be involved in a fight from all the way across the map, so positioning is not exactly a concern. Whereas Unguided have potential to shred objectives with what is basically a double, let's call it triple auto attacker composition with Bologna. They have potential to steamroll these team fights if they establish a lead. Just Athena dash taunt, damage to behind it, standard combo. But the ability to put themselves in that position, I think, is going to be very much so contingent on the first 5 to 6 minutes of the game.
And you said it, looking at Sack the Set, if you're watching at home and you're taking notes as we go through the day for things to utilize in your own games for today and tomorrow as the alpha weekend continues. In the previous game, we saw the Neith go insane. We saw the Zeus do exactly what Myth said, hanging out in the backline, dealing insane damage, and essentially daring the opposition to dive on him because he kind of prefers it. So for Sack the Set, we'll see if they can run back that same kind of magic that we saw from Hex Mambo, but the answers lie for us in game. Let's head in there and see what we've got cooking up. We got the crab! Air Doug bringing you the crab view from the start. Anthony and Mifflin alongside for the ride. Again, no invades though, Miff. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, it's awkward, I think, to go for the guaranteed invade because you don't know where people are starting and whether or not they're starting the jungle. I mean, you can see the difference already. Sack the Set seemed to be willing to just go for a more traditional Smite 1 style game start, hovering the purple buff, want to make sure those buff timers are on cooldown. One of the major changes to the jungle in Smite 2 is that the first time you clear the yellow buff or the purple buff or the red buff or the blue even, they're not dropping buffs. The numbers on the minimap are associated with the buff level, and each time you clear it, you progress towards that next level until eventually they still, or begin rather, to give over some of those benefits. Unguided, I was considering an invade, realize, okay, well, the enemies aren't in lane. I don't want to be in lane either. Back up to their own purple buff. We'll be clearing that one out. Slight difference in jungle starts, it seems, in that CERN is struggling and Loki really isn't. That clear is very slow.
Loki has felt to me like there's always the conversation of Loki being that level 3 character, but for me, I've liked kind of just running around my jungle as Loki until level 4 and seeing how that feels out and taking my time with Loki, making the invade attempt when you've got the assassinate online, playing it safer. We'll see if that's the route that Sack the Set choose to take. Early on, the Soul did take some poke, but Unguided, not too deterred quite yet in this laning phase, trying to utilize the most of that Soul damage that Myth was talking about.
Speaking of, the new mechanics around health potions, I think, are very interesting. And I know I'm getting granular, and most people are probably bored by stuff like this, but this is stuff I really think about and I like. It's how quickly health potion and mana potion ticks nowadays. In Smite 1, I believe it was like 10 HP, 20 seconds or something like that. Now it's 25 HP a tick. That is insane. You're essentially doubling or 2.5 times in what you're used to in Smite 1, and that allows you to take these encounters, these early game fights, and treat it really like a burst heal, essentially. When you only have 500 HP, a 25 HP tick is ridiculous.
And the burst of that healing, and of that mana, for that matter, it gives you so much outplay potential of being able to almost coax your enemy in and then utilize that quick healing to make a turnaround play work. Air Doug taking us over just in time to see the bludgeon land for first blood. You cannot beat that timing. That was so cinematic.
Maybe it is Paul. Maybe it's him. Maybe that's him, you know? Early first blood for Unguided, the underdog team. Gonna make himself announced on the map there. Clean play over towards Bologna. You have to respect that bludgeon damage. Hit the circle, the slam does a little bit extra. And Paul puts that on full display, even electing to go for a little bit additional strength. in that first slot as opposed to maybe protection or anything like that. So a lot of damage to play with there.
The Duin gonna find one onto the Soul. So just Lion not off to the most comfortable start to be a Soul. You want to get as much farm in pocket as you can. Rush to level 5. Supernova hits like a truck in its current state, so unguided. Dual lane could be going off to a better roll, but hey, they got First Blood. And we're still way too early in the day for First Blood to be any kind of curse coming out from the previous game. So hey, maybe this is the time where you turn it around and you make First Blood not predictable.
I think I've discovered a quirk of the spectator system here in Smite 2. I think we might be on the order team, Anthony. The enemy squad captured the Warhorn. I believe that went over to the Chaos side. Just calling that out for myself and the viewers at home so we know exactly what means what and what's going on. So small win there for Sack the Set over on solo side. Maybe a small win for Unguided attempting a purple buff invade?
The Duin's got the damage for it. There's a stun off the detonate. A good taunt, though, to maybe help get that soul away. You see the sprint away, the fire trail saying, don't follow me, please leave me be. April trying to rush through on that Loki. Does have the movement speed to keep up. And still far from ultimates for Unguided. So this is not going to be an easy fight if they choose to try to make it work. Now they've got the rotation out from Drake. They will not do it. They lose out on the farm, lose out on some infamy on the camps as well.
I mean, just fortunate, I think, for Unguided to make it out of there alive. With the Duin initiating that fight with Chain Lightning and finding all those ticks directly onto Just Lion, I had thought that was it for him immediately. Fortunately for Unguided, Duin not exactly that far into his build just yet. Hasn't made his way back to base, so just sitting on the individual gem. Not the most power to be playing with. But having all that gold and getting the purple buff invade himself, should be able to head back and get pretty powerful quickly.
Thank you. Just trading out with Paul. Solo lane thinks. At least solo lane's still consistent. You've got
Classic.
your island. You got the other monitor open. You're vibing. Pure vibes, Smith.
There's not much to do over here in the soul lane. I'm
We got the
racking my
blessing.
brain. Do you recognize that item from Benko?
Soul Devour early coming out.
Yeah, so that is a little bit of additional intelligence, some max mana as well, some mana regen. This is something we're seeing a lot from Chalk recently. Chalk is one of the gods in Smite 2 that has really seen a shift in playstyle based on strength versus intelligence scaling. A lot of people saying, well, what's the point of building defense if I could just build intelligence, scale my heal, and then I've got intelligence and I'm healing for however much HP per tick, and it's matching essentially the effective defense that I would have got from the build. It makes him surprisingly tanky.
Jump away there from the need. Gunter not interested in fighting over this blessing, as Unguided really want the blessing, but every auto stops you from getting it. So Gunter has denied that blessing, but it might just cost the life. No! Able to get out. So got to be annoying and a bit of a pest over the blessing and survive. On top of that, in trouble in the duo lane. We'll fly on over. See if the soul can get away. In the meantime, Detonate online has already been used. Appears to be so. So just Lion, just barely surviving the damage there underneath that tier 1 tower.
Yeah, the Duin will be slowly regenerating some of that mana. 2 killing masks in pocket already. That is, I believe, 100 power total already for Duin. So lots of damage to play with. Dash off the mark. Bologna makes the rotation.
The teleporter coming in big. We'll see if the damage is there in the Eye
No
Silence. The Neathel to slow things out. Silence has got some distance already. Tries to take the right pathing.
way.
It works out! April will bring down Just Lion. Paul was able to pick up a return and looking for more, but look how much health is on April. It's going to be a grind out onto this Loki. If the taunt is up, it could mean death. April gets the distance with the invis to get away, but not fully out of harm's way. Nickerkoken, bang! Later!
Clean stuff. Massive rotation there from Unguided. That is a huge commitment of resources over towards the dual lane. Soul lane, I think, teleport, mid lane, takes the rotation. Personally, is Benko. Comes in late. Perhaps will pay the iron price. Just barely evades the Spirit of the Nine Winds. Starpawn off the mark a bit there. But great play from Unguided, getting involved and making them pay. Worth noting though, i-Silence does survive at the end of the day and does get his kill for Loki. Wild, making use of that tall grass on the entrance of the lane, I believe, dodged out an ability, makes his way over the wall, is able to escape with the assistance of Neath. That ultimate really buying him some space.
And that first item for i-Silence, the Neems, also proving to pay dividends in helping that survival and ensuring it, as well as the teleporters making a play. We're getting to see a little bit of everything that Smite 2 offers today.
And we should have plenty of opportunities to catch every single bit of it. If you're keeping a Smite 2 bingo card, I think the only thing we're really missing right now is some of the items, as well as seeing an Elder Fury go down. So I'll be excited. If the game
I'm also
develops
waiting
to
on that
point.
Ancient Fury. I can't wait for it. I feel like once we actually see it, I'm curious to see if a team is confident enough to go off the back of an Ancient Fury and say, all right, structures are down. There's nothing to fear. We force the fight. Because I'm worried teams are going to grab that Ancient Fury. You got 120 seconds, but I don't feel like it's going to pay off if you choose to be timid with it.
No, it really is just the go button, isn't it? It's similar to the Fire Giant, but the Fire Giant has a much longer duration on it. So, I mean, so often we've seen Fire Giant, back to base, go get Gold Fury, back again, spend it up, then rotate through. When you pick up the Ancient Fury,
no.
I mean, it really is just make it happen.
Chalk committing atrocities in the soul lane. A double kill coming out onto Paul and Drake. Not what you want to see if you are rooting for the side of Unguided. Same thing with the gold lead now, sitting pretty comfortably above 4,000. Sack the set. 4-3 kill lead, so they're keeping that in check. But that double kill for Benko is now going to make this Chalk, we'll say dangerous as the soft version of what this Chalk can do.
He's just got so much damage to play with. Something we didn't talk about with that first item pickup is, as well as the passive, just doing, I believe it's 15% of your target's remaining HP with every ability procced. I believe that's damage over time, maybe 4 or 5 seconds. So it's a poke play style for this Chalk. Benko can walk up, hit Torrent, walk away, sustain with his 3, and you've just lost 15% of your HP while he's laughing his way back to the bank, as well as picked up a little bit more sustainability as well as some defense later on in the build. This Chalk is very difficult to gank.
Very much indeed. The dual lane does have its own gank going on. The Lightning Storm will catch the Soul, the knock up too, drop everything. Soul gets dropped. Doing with another kill on that Zeus, but the health bars aren't looking too great for Sack the Set. They realize the same thing. They back on out. They'll get away safely, but damage done. Soul gone. A lot of attention has been given to this Soul. 3 deaths now for Just Lion. And it's going to be really hard to get the Soul online. If in that scenario, i-Silence could be in trouble.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation now for Just Lion, where you think to yourself, well, do we really want to leave me alone in the lane? If I'm not left alone and I'm splitting farm, I'm just going to be 3 levels down for the rest of the game. But if I am left alone, I might just die. Drake taking the 1v1 with the stun on Zeus. Knocks him down. Neath would have been there regardless. It's a, you might have killed me, but you're dying no matter what situation. Shout to aggro. Putting the stun back on detonate. Just disgusting. But legitimately, it is a catch-20 for Just Lion. Now 3 levels down, 7 to the 10 of the Druid. Enemy support is level 9. I'm pretty sure i-Silence wins the 1v1 up against this Soul right now. Go somewhere else if you're Sack the Set. You can keep the Soul down, but I'm certain that the Druid can handle that on his own. Maybe look towards a Fury. Maybe look towards sieging some of these towers. Mid-tier 1, I mean, essentially on its last leg.
Even getting aggressive in some of the neutral farm. That was something you were touching on earlier, was the idea of locking down neutrals. Benko so far making Paul feel not too different from a camp in these last 2 engagements. It's 2 quick deaths back to back, one of which was a 1v2 double for Benko. So Unguided maybe now consider leaving the Chalk alone, which good news, Mifflin. If you need to leave the Soul on an island for safety and to allow the Soul to get some farm and put pressure elsewhere, and the solo lane is beginning to feel like a lost cause, your options are becoming a bit clear.
That is the most generous way to describe not being allowed to play in your side lanes that I've ever heard. Props to you, Anthony. You are a consummate professional. A guy like me just says, oh, Just Lion. Dead again in his tower? Not this time.
Decent body blocks coming out. The body blocks might turn to a kill. The stun for Ice Silence. No way. No. Doesn't get away. Reach indeed, but detonate. Responded by Duduin. Now are we going to get greedy? There's a wave coming. A Loki nearby as well. Just
bad.
Lion hasn't backed. We're feeling greedy, surely. Loki might just go for it in general. They've got the health to do it, but instead, Just Lion walks right into the waiting arms of Duduin. Didn't even have to get fancy for that rampage. Oh. Bologna with the jump scare onto Duduin, and the Eagles rally to the bonk for the kill.
Soul Laner's got it so easy, man. Free farm lane, teleport over. So easy for him. Yeah, get out of there. Apriel said, I do not win a 1v3 just yet. He'll pull out a split push as well. I mean, that's such a massive rotation. You can't just teleport back. Apriel's kind of playing the map pretty smart here. I really like that play. Knocks down a wave, could potentially pressure tower. Not exactly sure where his wave is. Instead, going to seal away some of that jungle. Is it worthwhile for Sack2Set to have made that exchange, though? Absolutely not. You don't want to have your 6-1 at the time Zeus have to die to dive who was at the time an 0-3 soul. I think just having a bit of fun bullying the enemies here.
Another Blood Forge Blade into Dagger Frenzy for the soul. So another attack speed soul coming out and having about the same luck, unfortunately. Just Lion goes down again to Gunter. Drake looking for a 1v1 that maybe can be won. Gunter gets the root, though, to slow it down. Now Gunter's feeling it, turns back, looks for the fight. The Wild Hunt and the auto are good. Hey, Drake won a 1v1.
That's a first in the last 3 months. Not for this guy, but for the moniker. Unfortunate for our boy Gunter as he falls down. Eye silenced. Spots out what was an attempted Gold Fury pull. Would have been massive for Unguided to close up a bit of the lead that's already starting to establish in favor of Sack2Set, but not quite able to do it with Silence already at level 11. I mean, that Bacchus, he's elected to go damage in third slot. He's legitimately hitting very hard.
Grab some gems and start belching away. Get that damage across. This Lion will use the Disapparate to get away, but walks back after and silenced. Make sure Silence was like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you positive? Because I can just belch on you, and they do it anyway. They walk back up and Sack2Set with an instant response. Just Lion will use the Blood Forge Blade for the shield, but it won't do much. Enko's still able to find one. Silence steps up, pops the ulti. Oh, here comes an Ethel too, but there's 2 body blocks for the Athena. That was not getting through. No matter what, at the end of things, 7-12 now read the kills. And Sack2Set sitting at 41,000 to the 34,000 of Unguided.
Does it not feel a bit personal at this point with Just Lion? That guy can't get past his own back camps anymore, let alone getting towards that 2-1
And they
tower.
haven't even gotten the tower.
They're not trying. It seems like they're leaving the tower
they just
up
want the soul.
just so they could get the soul further into the lane so they can knock him down. Bro's 0-6. He's level 9. He's not double digits, and he's not going to get there anytime soon. You don't necessarily need to do all that much. Easy initiation there on the Drake. Knocks him down. Gunter, credit for the kill. But it'll cost Apriel his life.
And stop the Gold Fury. Okay, Unguided. Making a play. Trying to get some gold around it as well. Gunter lurking on that need. Not going to let this be free. It's dying quick, but Gunter just able to walk right up. And those level disadvantages might mean a lot. Starpawn destroys the Gold Fury for Unguided, but Gunter able to bring a kill with it. Might get another. The Unravel? An auto? Not yet. Got it. Wow, Gunter is on one this game.
Yeah, let this be a lesson to the finalists going forward, be it Unguided or Sack2Set. Neath is a problem and needs to be addressed. The damage output, the ease of access to her passive in Smite 2 just makes her such a threat on map. I believe it was the Blight buff there, the new red buff, new iteration of red buff, that secures the kill. Any ability applied applies a dot of damage. Does, I believe, 5% of your target's HP at rank 2, and that's what the red buff's at currently.
Oh no, Lion.
Dead again.
Got the tower though.
Good for him. You know, he leveled up twice on the kill he got earlier.
I think the saddest part for me was the slow camera turn, seeing the soul die. Of oh, never mind.
So I'll get there. I can't. It's too far.
Oh man, it's gonna turn to a tier 1 tower for Sack the Set. Could be even more than that, as this fight, it's looking real juicy for Sack the Set. They'll pick up one of the two who are hanging in mid. They get the tier 1 in duo. They'll grab the tier 2 in mid. And when Sack the Set is clicking on every cylinder needed to make this game impossible for Unguided.
And you see the healing output from Benko as well. I mean, it just goes to show what a little bit of intelligence scaling does for Chalk. He tanked up like 5 tower shots before he took any sustainable damage there. Reinitiation from Unguided, but you gotta think it's unwarranted.
Gunter takes out Just Lion because that's the priority of any team fight from Sack the Set, is to kill that soul instantaneously. Gunter with a good double root will look to step up because look who's lurking around that side. It's Duduin. If they can get there in time, they will. The lightning storm, bang, and bop. Double kill for Duduin. Looking for another, but gets dropped by Paul instead on that Bologna. And Paul's got a full health bar and sees Gunter. Target acquired. Target gone with the backflip.
I forgot you could do that in Smite 2. That legitimately...
Me too, it got me.
I thought this guy was exploiting for a second. Yep, backflip goes over walls now. You've seen it right. Gunter showing off some of that new tech. Neath is at an all-time power high. I don't know if you noticed either how quickly he dealt with Starpawn. Gunter just hit Starpawn with a 1-2 combo in reverse and just does 50% of his HP before the fight even starts off proper. Drake couldn't reinitiate. Paul able to chase him out, but really never posed a threat towards Gunter himself. There is too much damage on the board for Sack the Set. The only fights we're seeing go the way of Unguided are when Sack the Set get a little too big for their britches. They're taking 2v4s or 1v5s, and they're never coming up empty. It's never just, oh, I walked into 5 people and I died. It's, oh man, I only got 2 of them. I only got 3 of the enemies there. Gotta think it'd be real scary if Sack the Set could figure out a way to 5-stack on the map.
Beads come out from Drake, just trying to get away and not have to deal with Benko, who is rocking mostly active items, so not somebody you want to mess with. You don't know the effects. But Drake does get caught with a nice root. And the shield now has backup from Paul. Speaking of too big for bridges, April just learned the same thing. Benko shows up, tries to make a new fight happen, and they do find that Cuckoo and Starpawn will go the wayside. Goes to Gunter. Even when they are not having the best fight. Oh, okay. All right. Another one for Duduin on Just Lion. Even when their fights aren't going their way, Sack the Set seem to just find a way to make things work in seemingly every team fight. Even the ones now where they're stepping up too far, Myth.
Yeah, well, Benko, I think, is exempt from the 1v5 rule. I am a massive fan of his build. His HP does not move. It really... Okay, well, it's moving now, but watch. He's going to call the rains down from Africa, and it's just going to full heal him. Any second now. He's thinking about it. Okay.
There it is.
Yes! Look at the HP go up. That's way less impressive than I thought it was. Disregard everything I've said. He's full HP, though. Kind of, if you don't look at him.
The turn to the pop for Gunter. Just doing insane numbers. Another int build for Neath Myth. That was something you were talking about right when this broadcast started. You were looking for intelligence needs to blow people up left and right, and Gunter is giving just that in this game.
Yeah, it's just so much damage to play with. Really, it's the access to the wings that has made Neath such a menace. Watch Zeus damage. Good eyes, Doug. Come on, 1 auto. Detonate. Yep, see ya. That stun makes them ridiculous. The auto attack stim on the second ability just plays so well into it. I mean, you get multiple avenues of proccing those charges and not consuming the charges on detonate means your auto attacks are always chunking.
Beads comes out there from April, gonna chase Drake into the base. Will find it, but should go down, and goes down to Paul. The response was all right there from Unguided, but only so much you could do. Sack the Set taking this opportunity to pull the Fire Giant. It's already below half health. The closest one was Paul, and they've been denied the spacing, and Neath ult for good measure to get the kill. Gunter able to steal it away from Benko, who was putting in the work on the delay, and Fire Giant will go to Sack the Set.
Sack the Set, victory lapping now. Just have to cross the T's and dot the I's of eliminating the map here. I mean, Just Lion does his best job. Split pushing, says, look, I've been ran down 9 times in this lane, but if nobody's here, I will be destroying structures, and does exactly that. Knocks down the tier 2 tower, nearly catching himself up with the enemy support. Level 16 now, Justin Lion. It's still about 3 levels down on to doing. Probably soon to be 4 as the siege just starts off in earnest. Unless Benko finds himself caught out here. Damage starting to stack up a bit.
The wings,
for Unguided.
baby. I love the wings to reposition. Asar's wings are such a great item in Smite 2.
Yeah, just having so much additional movement speed, the ability to reposition. Mobility in Smite 2, I think, in general, has just been incredibly strong. 1v1 potential here for Just Lion. Pops the Dagger Frenzy, but gotta hit those autos.
Popped everything, including Supernova. Autos couldn't land, but the ultimate from Creel lands. Spirit of the Nine Winds not going to do the same. Unguided will just attempt to kite away and drop what they can on the way out, but they were unable to make a pick. And there's the mushroom! We love the mushroom!
A chunk heal from the mushroom. That was massive. Benko back to full. Can just walk himself in. All the while, Zeus keeping up pressure on the right. Neath doing the same on left.
Get the mushroom in your games. That's the advice you've learned here today. And maybe utilize the damage from Zeus. So close to taking out the Athena, but Benko handles the job. Handles them both with the Storm Call. Double kill coming out for the Chog. Phoenixes are falling left and right eventually. It's just going to be a matter of time. This has been a tough one for Unguided. They made every effort possible, Myth, but Sack the set have locked in on this solo lane. Phoenix. Mid Phoenix is being touched now by Gunter. Should go down soon if they even need to. They could look to just dive into the throne room. That's the game plan. An instant kill onto Just Lion. The last one standing for the defense will be Drake. But Sack the Set will pay not much mind. Silence with a scary jump, but the focus is the Titan in this throne room, but they're not able to kill it quite yet. They have to back up. They didn't have the damage. Drake is actually able to kill Silence off the back of that. Hero defense, perhaps?
It looks pretty good. Forcing Sack the Set back. Walk through the mid Phoenix as Apriel, taking a lot of damage there. And instead it's doing, actually knocking down Starpon on his march forward. Gotta think had Dodoon actually been hitting the Titan the entire time, it's pretty likely they could have closed out the game there. Instead, decided to play with their food a bit, take that team fight. And Unguided benefit from being behind. They respawn pretty quickly. We're able to force back Sack the Set. But for how long? Seems to me they're not exactly even taking a break. They haven't gone back to base. They want to fight now.
Maybe looking to make one last Hail Mary of a play. Dash in, taunt. Damage real good, though, from Sack the Set onto the Athena. She realizes the mistake. Athena has to back out of there. There's the mushroom for this team fight. Gonna make it real difficult for Paul to do anything. Dodoon answers with an instant detonation. So now it's a grayscale world for Paul, and Unguided might not be far behind. They've got to make this defense on the mid Phoenix. That's how they feel. That's what they're stepping up to do, but they're not fully healthy for it, man.
You know what I've just noticed? There's 5 Soul Devourers on Sack the Set. The poke potential of this team just... Alright, if all of us land one ability, I mean, that's, what, a cumulative 60% of the enemy team's HP? It's pretty ridiculous.
Yep, just like that. With the Neath ultimate. Gunter gonna find a double kill at the Phoenix line. They've got to get the mushroom across to save Gunter, but they won't do it. Phoenix does too much damage there. Gunter goes down. Certainly not going to stop Krill from diving into the throne room to bring out Starfon. This mid Phoenix has been a raid boss for the last 45 seconds. But Sack the Set finally bring it down. Now they look to step into the throne room. They've got fire waves to do it. Drake, the last defense. Not going to be successful this time on that defense. And Sack the Set will lock the game down. See if they can take a couple kills with it on the way out. They'll do just that. The Titan will fall. Sack the Set, take it.
So it seems to me 5 int builds, maybe not great at backdooring Phoenixes without minions, maybe phenomenal at taking team fights, though. It just seemed to me that every individual ability that Sack the Set threw out just did infinitely more damage than what we had seen from the other side. The ability to leverage strength in your build is contingent on your ability to actually land auto attacks, to stick to your enemies, and it just doesn't seem like that's going to be the case for them.
Well, we're jumping right to the end of the other semi-final. So we'll see where Hex Mambo and Leeds Rhino are at 28 minutes in, 21 kills for Leeds Rhino to the 9 of Hex Mambo. And we're in the throne room. 2 up for defense, Kha'Zix and Johnny, but the Titan not going to be looking in great straits. Leeds Rhino jump right in the Odin Cage to try to slow it down, but it's already going quick, down to half health. Leeds Rhinos are playing no games on this end call in that throne room, and they will do it. The timing was perfect. We get right in to see the Titan go down, and Leeds Rhino secure their spot in the finals.
Yeah, I would have never expected this matchup to be as one-sided as all that.
That's
81,000 to 59 for gold in favor of Leeds Rhino. I mean, 22 to 9, 40 assists. Seems to me that Genetics had himself a hell of a game. Nika 8-0-10, undying, and 18 out of 22 affected. That's ridiculous as well. A slight variation in the chalk build that we had seen previously. No Soul Devourers. Oh, excuse me, just the one for adapting on the side of Leeds Rhino. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hex Mambo, I mean, they could not spool anything together. Kha'Zix seemed to have got abused throughout the early to mid game. Vaporishkos as well, struggling in his laning phase, elects to go for an auto attack damage build. Probably just wasn't given the opportunity to do that exactly with the Mage Chalk on the other side. Seems to be a matchup Chalk's been winning out pretty consistently in Smite 2. Great stuff there from Leeds Rhino, and that essentially confirms your finalist matchup, and that does also confirm the step away from best of ones. We're going to best of threes.
A best of 3, the first one of the Smite 2 Alpha Weekend 2. And it's going to be an insane matchup. Atu, Smite 2. How could I forget? Honestly, that's on me. But let's take a peek at that bracket. Let's see how we got here. Leeds Rhino, sack the set, going to be the matchup. You saw how well Adapting performed on that Loki. And we saw sack the set go pretty crazy. The Gunter on the Neath was a really great performance. So there's a lot of experimentation colliding in this matchup, Myth.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this finals matchup, primarily to trace the Soul Devourers. If that item is giving as much value as I'm thinking it was, or as I should say, Sack the Set is thinking it was, all 5 of them electing to pick it up. I only saw the one for Leeds Rhino, so maybe we're seeing a bit of that meta develop, one of those items that could be a bit of an outlier.
Seeing a lot of Bloodforged Blades, seeing a lot of the Soul Devourers, the Mushroom starting to make its appearance. We've been waiting on that. I really liked the Staff of Mirrodin on Neath, but I'm interested how it would have played on the Chalk. We didn't get to see that the full game, but I like the idea of being able to get multiple heals across if you need. There's a lot of options on the table there for how it could interplay with Chalk in particular.
Yeah, I think Chalk's damage scaling on Torrent comes from Int, but the Axe Toss is Strength, if memory serves. So likely we're seeing Torrent get used pretty consistently with that style of build. Maybe he's electing to go for the heal, but as you said, I mean, OG Staff Mirrodin has always been one of my favorite items in Smite 1, and now again here in Smite 2. Giving over a second use of an ability, it just makes for these really interesting combos.
That is a powerhouse finals matchup. Trying to truly guesstimate on what we might see is going to be tough, especially what we saw in that previous game. But I don't know. We're in for a show in this grand finals. We're going to take a quick break before we get there, though. So we'll be right back here on Smite Game with more from the Smite 2 Alpha Tournament.
I'll do Smite 2.
Immortals have invaded my realm, and my children rebel against me. Dark days these are. But my strength shall bring resolution, and my lightning, illumination! Zeus!
Bologna.
Anubis.
Kukulkan.
Saturn.
That's right. Go over to starforgesystems.com and you can pick up one of the best machines in the universe. If you want to play some Smite 2, watch it. You can do it all on the brand new PCs available to us through Starforge Systems. So get your case or buy a full PC as well. starforgesystems.com/product/Smite to pick one up. And as you saw in the video, you can also customize some of the backplating on there. So if you're not a big fan of Zeus, you can grab Surtur, maybe you can grab Scylla. Make your choice and pick one up today. Thank you so much, Starforge Systems, for putting this PC together and put it out there and available for the fans at home to enjoy and pick up for themselves. Again, you can get either the full PC or you can just pick up the case and then customize everything on the interior as well for yourself. So once again, a big shout out to Starforge Systems for the PC. But we're back now in the Smite 2 Alpha Tournament. It's J-Mac and Trelly joining me in as we get ready to set up for the EMEA Finals. We got Leeds Rhino and Sack the Set now in our finals, and it will be a best of 3. And Trelly, some big names on the rosters for these teams.
No, there certainly is. And I think, I'm going to disagree a bit with what... Oh, hi. I'm going to disagree a bit with what Anthony and Miff were saying about... I like Smite 2 Alpha 2 Tournament. I think it flows a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You get to hit certain beats, and that's always a good thing. So I'm not going to hate on it too much. I like the name, and you're right. This is one of... When you look at the matchups and look at the rosters, this was definitely 2 of the squads that we expected to make it this far. And honestly... I don't get what Team Leeds Rhinos means. I really expected that I'd be able to somehow understand where they were going with that one. Oh, it's a rugby team. Okay, well, that makes it a lot easier for me to understand. Now I get it entirely.
Yeah, well, now we got the backstory on that. Maybe we'll learn a little bit of backstory about Sack the Set. But as mentioned, this will be best of 3 here for these grand finals in EMEA. Our final 2 teams, after some grueling competition, have made their way all the way through up until this grand finals matchup. And if you haven't seen any of the rosters up until this point, I'll just go ahead and read off some of the names here. We'll start with Sack the Set. Still some familiar names if you've been following maybe the SCC side of things for a little while. You have Deduin, I Silenced, Gunter, April, Deathwalker for that team. Pretty strong roster at the very least. And then you look who they're up against. Leeds Rhinos, some former SPL and SCC powerhouses on that squad as well. Streak Up, Genetics, Dardes, Adapting, and world champion Nika from Smite 1 rounding out that full roster over there. So should be a pretty big battle here in the grand finals, Trelly.
Yeah, I mean, as far as picks and bans have gone, there hasn't been too many surprises. Hades being at the top of everyone's mind was definitely something I expected. Some of these auto attackers like Bologna, for example, has been very impactful. A bit of a shock to me, though, I don't know if this was something that you expected or not, was so much priority towards the Fenrir. I guess because everyone gets a pair of beads, you'd think that makes Fenrir less viable. But because of the fact that the beads are on a bit longer cooldown and it's harder to keep track of, I think Fenrir has been getting more value than I maybe previously expected.
Maybe it could be part of the fact that Fenrir's kind of multi-role in this one. You can play him support, you can play him solo, you can throw him in jungle. So a lot of different options available to him. Personally, I've been liking what I've seen out of support and soloing. We can get a little bit more bruiser. Maybe the damage not quite there, especially with some of the nerfs that came to strength coming into this Alpha 2 weekend at the very least. So we'll have to see maybe if that priority shifts here for some of the top teams. But maybe it's also just taking away Fenrir so that you can grab the Loki for your squad, and then you kind of have to put them maybe in a bit of an awkward jungle spot. We've been seeing the adaptation to kind of really just be either like a Bologna or an Odin going into the jungle instead.
Well, J-Mac, from my past experience that I have been a big hater of something called the Chungle. But honestly, in Smite 2, man, I'm a bit of a Chungle believer. I think Chalk Jungle actually feels quite strong in the right hands in Smite 2. So I'm not going to be as big of a hater. if someone pulls out the jungle, today, that's definitely a different scene than what we have, because there's so many more assassins in Smite 1, right? Smite 2, you're more limited in your options currently because we're so early on, which means if you got to throw a chalk in the jungle, I'm not going to be too upset about it. There's just so many with active items. There's so many options that you can take to really make that Stormcall ultimate a lot more valuable, a lot more impactful. So I'm not going to hate it if it gets locked in.
Yeah, we've also been seeing a very heavy priority towards Zeus as well, especially with the new item introduction, Staff of Mirrodin, getting the double snap on your third ability. It just makes him so potent in late game team fights. You pop that Mirrodin, you get the snap, instant stun. Okay, cool. The stun's over, no big deal. Nope, there's another stun immediately around the corner. So we'll have to see how some of the transformations kind of go through with the meta of this matchup in particular. So we'll kind of have to see maybe what gets drafted up by these players, what the priority ends up shifting to for game number 1 between these two teams. Because with some of the talent that's on this squad, there's bound to be some theory crafting going on here, Trelly.
No, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I hope we do get to see some new tech, or at least something that we haven't seen so far yet this tournament. Nothing too out of the ordinary, though. I am curious about which team gets to go for these bans, and it's actually going to be the Loki ban here from Teeds Leeds Rhino. So maybe they are trying to get themselves the Hades or something like the Fenrir. They have options, but Team Sack the Set, they're in an interesting position now where they can say, what do we absolutely not want to deal with? Because Neath has still been very prevalent. Athena has been pretty prevalent, and it is going to be the Hades ban, which means Team Leeds Rhinos, they get to decide, do you want the Neath, do you want the Fenrir, or do you want something like the Soul, for example, which we've seen a couple times as well?
Yeah, maybe no shock seeing the Hades band away with how impressive he's really been in the queues, just in the matchups that I've gotten to play, from what I've gotten to see, from all the adjustments, especially around his ultimate, just makes him such a dangerous god to deal with. But it will be that Neath first pick. A couple of different spots that she can play. You can play her mid, you can play her ADC. We've also been seeing that very heavy int style of build for Neath, where you just try and one-shot somebody, with a 2-1 combo, or throw out that World Weaver ultimate to get some massive damage there. So we'll see where the Neath ends up landing out. And you kind of hinted at a chalk. We'll end up seeing, Charlie, if this one goes in the jungle, though.
Yeah, we'll see where the chalk gets played. Again, there is some flexibility there, but chalk in the solo lane is just as potent. Follow that up with a Bacchus. I've been a big fan of the Bacchus. I know Athena has been taking a little bit more of the limelight because of that global presence, but Bacchus in lane can be extremely disruptive, especially if you throw a little bit of damage in there. Bacchus can still be a threat, but it is going to be the soul locked in as well. And if you're used to, your Smite 1 brain, you gotta flip-flop a bit, because Soul has been going pretty much strictly strength-based build, so auto attack, crit, that sort of thing. Whereas Neath, as you said before, just intelligence, some Soul Devourer, just trying to get as many ability procs as possible, and she can absolutely one-shot if given that option.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how, the Neath ends up building. Do you stick to the traditional end? Do you maybe try and go towards more of a strength style of build? Not that your abilities will scale as much that way. And also very similar to the Soul, where you do have some of that int and you do have some of that strength out there. Has kind of made it a little bit unique as to what kind of options people want to play with. These gods that do have those hybrid options available to them. But along with the Fenrir to round out at least the top 3 for Leeds Rhinos, on the opposite end, Sack the Set will pick up the Cernos and the Bellona. Now, I've been seeing 2 very distinct styles of Cernos. I've been seeing the traditional hunter, you build your full power, you get the crit in there, and you play just like it's any other day of the week, just like Smite 1. But the int Cernos build that I've been seeing going around has been absolutely decimating some of the players that have had to go up against it.
Yeah, and I have checked out a bit of Genetics' stream recently, and he plays just about everyone in support. That's nothing new, but he does go an interesting brand of support Cernos that I saw. So I don't know if we're gonna be seeing that, because there's already a Bacchus on Sack the Set, and of course that's not even his team, but it does still have that flexibility, right? There's plenty of ways that you can build this character and get value out of the kit. But considering that we see the Cern, I wouldn't be surprised if that is going to be a chalk jungle, and it's gonna be the Kukulkan there towards the end. Wow. We're going to see an interesting lineup here for Leeds Rhinos.
I think that Neath is going to Genetics. I watched a little bit of his stream yesterday. He goes a little bit of tankiness early, and then he goes like a 3rd item, Staff of Mirrodin. It is one of the wildest things to watch, because he'll just backflip into enemy lines, and they all panic. They're like, guys, there's a Neath. He's in our backline. What do we do about this? And then he just backflips back out because he used a Mirrodin proc, so you can literally just go in and bait out abilities. So we'll see if that Neath ends up landing in Genetics' hands, or if it goes maybe something a little bit wackier on there. Rounding out the roster, though, for Sack the Set is this Anubis. Has seen a little bit of adjustments to kind of his kit from the Smite 1 to Smite 2. Still a whole lot of damage. If you can get some lifesteal online, so difficult to kill this god.
Yeah, first of all, I love the fact that you in any world think that a Neith like in the backline is scaring people. You're like, wait, what do we do about this Neith in the backline? Usually you just kill them, but you're right. It's much more difficult when she gets 2 backflips and is building tanky in this case. So definitely a lot of setup here for the Kukulkan. Does take a little bit to get online. I feel like Cuckoo's damage is very high scaling at the moment, so you're not going to come out of the gate level 5 ready to kill. You might want to get some intelligence online, which you get some itemization, but still, Ymir needs support. Fenrir, there is a lot of lockdown. Beads is going to be incredibly important here for Team Sack the Set, and they have a pretty tanky roster as well. I mean, when you look at Chalk, Bacchus, and Bologna, that's not going to be an easy front line to just blow through. So I've got my eyes on both of these squads, probably just going to be playing it safe early on and sort of feeling each other out, but I really do want to see how this World Weaver ultimate gets used, especially from a support POV, because you can use it to last hit kills, but more often than not, you might be using it to burn beats and set up for the squad.
Yeah, we've been seeing some item pickups as well to maybe try and supplement that. I think it's, what is it, the World Stone that reduces the ultimate cooldown just by 20 seconds or 20% flat at that point. So maybe an option to maybe pick that one up if you're running support. But we'll have to see maybe whose hands gets on each of these gods. We get ready to jump into game number 1 here of the finals between the EMEA teams. Remember, it's Leeds, Rhino, Sack the Set facing off in a best of 3. Yeah! And our best friend Crab hanging out. We get to chill out with them for a little while as we jump into the game.
Important. We can name the crab. I don't think Anthony and Myth named the crab.
Oh, what do we name this crab?
We can name this crab for the rest of Smite 2's lifetime if it always chills here.
So should we do it, or maybe should we kind of poll the viewers out there and see what comes up with a good name for it?
I mean, do we trust chat?
That's a good point. Do we trust them enough to give a proper good name to this crab, or do we just want to take that responsibility ourselves?
I vote for Sheldon.
Sheldon, I like.
Yeah, ooh, I can't lie. I did have chat open for a second, and Larry also kind of slaps.
Oh, yeah, but Larry's a lobster in the SpongeBob universe. I don't know if we can do that. Or is it just because it's the funny haha that it's not actually a lobster?
It makes you think, at the very least. We'll sit on it, and then by the end or by the start of next game, we may have to decide. We will let that one go. But are there any of these god roll combos really messing with you here, or is this about what you expected? Because Nika taking the Ymir, once we knew that Genetics was going to be taking the Neith, makes a lot of sense to me. Ymir, again, you can build just however you want, really. This character is more fun when you're getting the auto attack damage online, which is why we see the axe start. So I do expect some big crits coming from Nika later on in the game. But besides that, Team Leeds Rhinos, everything sort of checks out there. And of course, we talked about the jungle, and that seems to be what April's doing here as well.
Yeah, I think just about everything seems correct for this, for where everything's kind of laying out here. Deathwalker or Benko, at least in this game, taking the Bologna, no surprise. So I think really the only one that, if I didn't already have the forehand sight of seeing it happen on a stream, the Neith is probably the only one that kind of catches me off guard. But outside of that, everything else looks pretty standard across the board for roll to roll at the very least. Do you see axe start for Deduin on the Cernados? So wonder if he will hook us primarily into the strength, or if we will see maybe a bit of that intelligence come on a little bit later in the game.
Yeah, I love starting just Bloodforge Dagger whenever I can. Just try and get that extra shield, extra survivability, lifesteal, very important. If you can pick it up early, we'll see if that's something that Deduin would like to start. But it looks like Adapting might be going for an early gank here. And right as Silence goes in for a flop, this could be good.
Oh, Beads have already been pulled away from the Bacchus, but Beads don't save you from damage. Adapting the king on the board first for the side of Leeds Rhino, taking down Eyes Silence. A great start for the Order side team.
Yeah, it seems like the wards weren't potent enough, or maybe Adapting's rotation wasn't called, but Silence goes for the belly flop the second that Fenrir shows up. I mean, I'll call it a good bait by Streak Up and by Genetics, but Adapting was just in the right place at the right time. So unfortunately there to Silence. Now you got the big dog on campus getting first blood, and if I know anything about Adapting, he's not going to take that lead and just play slowly with it. I expect him to get extremely active. Go pick up a Ragnarok, get level 5, head on back. You have options here.
Bit of danger in the solo lane there. Nika receives a little bit of a gank, but gonna be just fine for the time being. No buffs to invade on this right-hand side, I should say. Adapting. Oh, never mind. Trying to secure this red buff, but it looks like it may have just been stolen away by April. Jump in is good. A nice little stun on top of the Chalk. It'll just be a trade of the in-hands. Health potions popping
Actually,
away.
wouldn't it?
Brutalized. He's got some big damage. Trying to bait it out, but look at the Kukulkan placing the tornado on top of the axe, cutting off the path. But April just said, all right, why don't I just bail out of the fight? Big slow, though, by Dardes. Not going to be enough. April's still able to snake his way out.
Man, I love the mind games there. Dardes is like, I got you. I'll cover the option. And April said, what option? I'm just leaving, bro. I'm just walking out. And that's exactly what happened. You gotta make sure that you're keeping your eyes on it. And of course, pay attention to the bottom of your screen. Adapting was winning that trade. You can see his health bar there. Would have been able to win the 1v1, and April knew that, so decided to run away. Something to note, though, holding on to health potions, extremely valuable in this current state of Smite 2, because if you're used to Smite 1 health potions, taking 10 HP, it's not as much. 25 like burst heal can be very easy to survive, especially early engagement. So that's why you see these health pots being popped the second an engage starts, or when you just feel like damage is coming your way. Holding on to health potions consistently for at least the first like 5 minutes can be a very good strategy.
Yeah, I think you put it best where you're going from the 10 a second that you're used to in Smite 1, you know, of course, of what is it, 25 seconds that you get that heal. Now you're getting that, you know, 2.5 times faster, and it just feels so much more immediate. Gives you so much more empowerment as well to really be able to go in and keep these fights going. But it's calmed down just a little bit. Maybe a couple of battles here in the mid lane could spark up as Adapting rotates over. Spot out by April. Good stun and damage on a Dardes, and it's going to get burnt down by the double ult. But it's Adapting not have the ultimate available yet. Still only sitting level 4, and a nice pick for Sack the Set on the mid laner.
Yeah, unfortunate there. Beautiful beads. Something you may have noticed if you haven't been playing too much Anubis. That ultimate now has a bit of burst on it, right? You can use that ultimate. Immediately, you're going to get burst damage, and then the tick damage starts flying through. Dardes didn't know if he wanted to beads there. Probably something that would have wanted to come through earlier. Silence has the juke shoes and is going to be able to get out of this one. But still, a lot of damage coming from the dual lane here from Leeds Rhinos. I was wondering if Genetics was going to be building into just a little bit more damage to help out when these World Weavers were going to start flying. And notably, you can't charge it when you're in the invis grass. Even if he's sitting there, you will be renamed. You will be revealed if you are chilling in the grass like that.
Some free gold for Gunter and the squad, now pulling a bit of a lead after that kill in the mid lane. I was wondering where Gunter was going to go with the first item on the Anubis. Was going to be towards lifesteal? Was it going to be a heavy amount of power? It is going immediately to the Soul Devourer, so going to forgo a bit of lifesteal just for that extra tick damage that you can get on all of your abilities cast.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Soul Devourer procs that are just, very prevalent. And because of that, you gotta watch out for, stacking it. Even when things like Loki, who don't scale off intelligence, it doesn't really matter. You just want that extra damage on your abilities, that essentially Soul Reaver proc that you're used to. That much damage can help out a ton. So that's the reason that everyone is prioritizing this item. They just want a little bit of extra tick. But look at this. Dardes actually going Divine Ruin first option. Wants to immediately deal with that anti-heal, because there's going to be a ton of sustain coming through for Team Sack the Set.
Yeah, Gunter April. Speaking of, Dardes tosses out an ultimate towards the mid, doesn't find it. Brutalize not going to be enough damage. A couple more in-hits from Adapting, though, will take down the mid laner, Gunter. But it's a little trade out there because Gunter, with the hands on the ground, able to get one more in return. Meanwhile, dual lane, we'd see one little pick there for Deduin. Picks off Genetics for the time being. So, Sack the Set took a little bit of an early spill. Dardes jukes out the axe toss. April missing it this time. And that will be a dropped kill in the mid lane.
Yeah, I never know who to credit there. Did April miss? Did Dardes juke? I think one played well, one played bad, and it's pretty easy to see what happened there. But either way, unfortunate there for April. Ends up going the Teko Kage start, Teko Kagi, whichever you prefer, which is a very strong item on some of these strength-based junglers. You get movement and cooldown for spamming your abilities. What more could you want on a jungler like Chalk? But also, another item that I wanted to highlight, of course, is Nika going the Triton's Conch. Just a very fun item in general. You don't have to do much. You just build it and squat up. It's the one with the Crab Rave as your emblem. And you just give strength and intelligence to your squad as long as they're near you. And of course, a pretty great hybrid item as well, just to make you feel nice and tanky. So those are just some of the items that you're going to see from solo lane more often than not, but not as if a support can't grab it as well.
God, now that you said it's modeled after the Crab Rave, I'm never going to unsee it. That's just permanently going to be now the Crab Rave item at this point.
I mean, what else is it going to be? What do you mean? It's a crab dancing, is it not?
Name to be determined as well for the crab. Remember that. We got to figure out.
J-Mac, I have seen some hubbub in chat, and it seems like a lot of people are liking the idea of naming the crab Doug.
Doug? Honestly, yeah. I'm not opposed to that at all. Man, heavy commit, though, onto Deathwalker. Benko going to go down against Leeds Rhino. Investment of Genetics ultimate to get over there. And speaking of Genetics, not the item I would have expected in first slot for a support. This looks to be a Kinsblade already picked up.
Yeah, I thought he was going like Dagger of Frenzy and was just gonna, you know, group up with the team and proc that active, which certainly still could be an option. Either way, Genetics, he's not here to be the support need, right? He said, I'm playing support, but I will be getting kills and setting up for my squad whenever possible. So keep your eyes on that Neef, I suppose, as this game continues. Because remember, there is going to be that global presence that he can apply essentially wherever he would like. Streak up as well. Does go for that extra damage. Oh, adapting. Picks off Gunter as well in the mid lane. This Anubis, a part of 2 kills, a part of 2 deaths. Well, it's technically 3, but it's still 2 and 2. That's what you want to see from your Anubis, and that's what I'd expect as well. Get active, find a kill, and then die trying, but still, getting that damage online, that's what's important.
And Genetics able to give back to base. There was a rotation from April trying to maybe sniff that one out, but comes up empty-handed this time. Genetics now going into a little bit of defense, and we talk opposite side for the supports. Picking up that Neems very early for Eye Silence, going to get him super tanky in lane quickly, being able to get those assists on the minions. Build up those protections a little bit later. Just such a good core item for your general supports to pick up, because it's a pretty early investment. It just gets you so much extra defense throughout the early game that you might be lacking towards some other items.
All right, so J-Mac, I hate to do this to you.
Okay.
You said Neems.
Sorry, the Neems.
It's the Neems. This is like, remember when we had the sledge? Like,
that's right.
This is an item that needs the. I get hyped when I see the Neems. And oh my god.
I get hyped when I see a Kukulkan ultimate slamming. Doesn't matter. Genetics
has it.
Gonna close that one out with the World Weaver. Gunter slowed down. April on the way. Toss out the axe and the range to slow down the battlefield. But Genetics and Darnaz aren't giving up. They're still moving forward. So is adapting into the tower. Takes him down with the brutalize and is trying to pick up April, brings him right into the waiting arms of the squad, and it's Genetics to get the kill.
My goodness, well played there from Team Leeds Rhinos. They understood exactly how much they could dive. Adapting does get the big dog off, but unfortunately April did not have the beads locked and ready and ends up falling for it. Surprising amount of damage coming from Genetics as well. I mean, that's just what this Needs support can bring, I suppose. But I was talking about how Darnaz might not be absolutely swinging. Gem of Focus already online. Probably the best starter item you can get on some of the intelligence-based carries. It's just a great item to spam abilities with. Same with like what April started, but for strength characters. Just getting that the extra procs by using your abilities certainly helps out. And yeah, Darnaz did a lot more with that Spirit of the Nine wins than I expected.
Some decent damage that way. Benko, Deathwalker. I feel like I have to like remind myself that that's Deathwalker over there on the solo lane. Does go for the Kinsblade himself, so gonna have a little bit of extra in-hand damage. Up against the opposition. Wild Hunt used by Deduin. Gonna push away the dual lane of Leeds Rhinos, but now there's a rotation in from April to try and slow down Streak up. Adapting shows up, goes in for the bite, but misses a couple of them. Who are you gonna bite at this point? Adapting just stands there menacingly at the enemy team, doesn't end up picking anybody up this time, and instead just tries to force Sack the Set and the rest of the squad out.
Man, Streak up was so low before it got into that sap rate. That was a very 1 HP soul. Unfortunately, once you're immune, you're immune. And April realized, hey, I gotta back out here. I thought that Adapting was missing on purpose to bait out the beads. Could have been an option either way. Didn't end up working out. April was able to zoom out of there, so no kills happening. But a lot of action on this side of the map. Silence does go forward. Genetics has some HP to play with, but he's gonna need a little bit more damage from Deduin, but he misses.
Another Bramble Blast miss. Deduin's missing the honest. Finally gets it under the tower. Good support. Eye Silence makes sure to tank that one up for him, but now Streak Up is back. Can they get anything off this? They don't have ultimates. Pops the beads to get away from the stun. Trying to close gap, but a great Bramble Blast rootsman place. That might be the end is what I would say if Adapting wasn't around the corner, ready to jump right in. Takes the beads away, brutalize in, confirms the kill. Can Adapting make it out of the tower? No, he can't. Doing a great turnaround, and who else but Darnaz to show up on the backside of the tower to help clean up the second kill.
Man, well played there by Darnaz. Definitely needed to be there to help clean that one up. A little bit of missed abilities there from Streak Up, and that is going to be a tier 1 tower. Plenty of tower bounties here to drop as well, so the carries on the side of Leeds Rhinos will be picking up plenty of gold in their hand. And that's a great start to this game. I mean, we're 12 minutes in at this point. Leeds Rhinos have built up quite the lead for themselves, but it seems like whenever Team Sack the Set tries to get aggressive, it is immediately met with more aggression from Leeds Rhinos. And they didn't just get 2 kills, they actually got a tower as well, which certainly helps out.
A pretty hefty chunk on that tier 2. Those siege minions, whenever they pop in, those larger ones, along with those every few waves, really helps to put a number on the enemy tower. Speaking of, 11 HP on Dardas' tower there in mid. You could walk up and you could sneeze on that tower and it would fall over at this point. So just a matter of time before Sack the Set goes ahead and takes that objective. But a little bit of a battle over here in the dual lane. Dardas and Streak Up never left. They were trying to take the tower, get pushed out. Turn to 9 win, hits the Duin, and now it's Genetics around the corner with adapting, takes down the enemy Hunter. And now it's Leeds Rhino with 12 kills on the board.
Yeah, they are not backing up either. It looks like they're heading for that Gold Fury. Look at this. You can see Sack the Set showing up. April has some damage. Wants to go in for the steal at best, though. I don't think anyone's low enough to find the kill, but Adapting is here on zone duty. And it looks like this one goes down for free. No steal attempted. Dardas going to confirm it, but April goes in after.
Use the ultimate, but Adapting wisely waits out the ult, picks him right back up, and delivers him over to Streak Up, who's able to get that kill and confirm the Gold Fury did Dardas. Leeds Rhino now starting to finally find a substantial lead in the game, about 4,000 up over Sack the Set.
Yeah, I thought April would have went in for the steal. Looks like tried to go in for the kill afterwards, but just didn't have the damage. I'm waiting for Nika to rotate, man. I want to see this Ymir show up. He's got Hussar's wings now, so does have a sprint in tow. Can help the team get some extra movements, but it looks like a dive might be heading towards Nika if Silence wants to go in. All the while, Dardas, you're getting ganked as well.
What is he doing? I think he just I think he accidentally dashed in when he was hoping to get the movement speed instead. Yeah. So you got to play around with the new Kukulkan is that second ability. When that tornado's down, you can dash sometimes through it. I don't think that was the intent for Dardas there, so unfortunately loses his life because of it.
Yeah, Dardas was definitely a cuckoo enjoyer in Smite 1, and as J-Mac explained, if you use your 2 inside of the NATO, you can click it again and use it as a dash, which might catch you off guard if you've been playing that god for 10 plus years at this point. So unfortunate there for Dardas. I really did think Nika was going to be dope over on the right side of the map. Looks like Nika is going for strictly active items. I believe that's Hussar's Wings, Pharaoh's Curse, and then of course the passive, which is just Triton's Conch. So a slow and a speed up. That's essentially what he's got there with his 2 active items. So once this Ymir rolls up to the team fight, should be fun. But look at this, has no idea there could be a gank coming his way. It doesn't matter because Genetics is here as well. Sends the ult just to let Benko know that he is not alone.
Jumping by Adapting, goes to the Ragnarok, picks him up, pulls the beads away from the Bellona for the time. Benko will continue to stay on the run while Nika tries to close in around the corner, turned in, waiting for that wall to pop back up for Nika. If it's even needed, does grab it, and Benko is stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's Nika get their first kill on the board.
Yeah, and that's going to help out. That Jotun's Revenge Adapting has online. Whenever those kills come through, reset the cooldowns, keep diving if possible. Unfortunately, Streak up the other side of the map also fell, but tier 2 tower drop. That's going to be even more gold in the pocket of Leeds Rhinos. But you got to watch out for your own tier 2. As you can see, Deduin and Silence are still trying to push down the left side of the map. And with teleporters not being used, they would be able to stay for a bit longer, but they don't have too much vision. So it looks like they're just going to give that one up. And the tier 2 lives to see another day.
And thinking about that, we haven't really seen a whole lot of shenanigans with the teleporters just yet. Teams sort of just playing the map as of standard, not really seeing any ports from one lane to another. Maybe once these objectives really start to come online, we'll start to see a little bit more push that direction. Fury goes down, okay, let's quickly port over, go to Fire Giant, or hey, they're doing Fire Giant, we're at gold, let's try and jump over there real fast. So we'll see. Maybe if some of those teleporters get a little bit of use as the games and as this set continues to go on.
So far, I mean, Gold Fury's down. Fire Giant still way too early to do unless you get like a full wipe. FG is very threatening in its current iteration, so walking over towards there could be a problem. But rotating over towards the left side of the map, Silenced and Deduin are pushed up pretty far, but April's nearby. Maybe that's why they feel so confident, even with Adapting here. Looks like Adapting might actually have to jump in here to help Genetics. He's getting no.
Does pop the beads. Supernova is good. Adapting goes in for the ultimate, but just waits it out and takes down April immediately afterward. 2 kills in swift succession for Leeds Rhinos. The Fury's still down for about another 15 seconds. If they wait this out, Leeds Rhinos could just group up and take down the second Fury of the game. But even with all these kills, all these towers going down, Leeds Rhinos really haven't pulled out as much of a lead as you would expect.
Yeah, and also, I know I called out a bit earlier that I thought that Streak Up would be going towards more of a strength build, but it looks like, I mean, that Supernova did a ton of damage. Going with the Hand of the Abyss start, hit your auto attacks, hit your abilities, essentially stack intelligence and basic, just pure basic attack damage, which helps out a ton with Soul's Heat. And yeah, you'll get some intelligence on your way, which is exactly what happened there. The 4-in-1 Soul has been a threat, and Gold Fury once again going the way of Leeds Rhinos, popping that death metal just to pump up the team and get a little bit more DPS down. Second Gold Fury down, and that's important because, of course, Ancient Fury will be on the way eventually. Important to note that this is a best-of-3 set. Leeds Rhinos would need to win 2, so even if they're able to take this one, not over yet. Team Sack the Set should be focusing on stem the bleeding, getting some gold, and, you know, thinking about how they want to play game number 2 at that point. But still, the lead is not that massive. This is about give or take 5,000 gold, not insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination. And invades like this, ganks like this, when you're just hiding in the grass, could be exactly what Team Sack the Set needs to try and put this game back in their favor.
I wonder how many of Sack the Set walked over some form of ward or just Nika peeking around a wall and seeing them before they get into the grass, because he seemed very well aware that there was more than your standard amount of players on his side of the map. With Fire Giant available, no surprise, but Sack the Set being a bit behind, probably don't want to go for the objective just yet, at least not for the time being. But as far as some of the builds are concerned, with these mid laners, we're seeing a lot of the standard kind of coming out from there. The Eldritch Orb, Soul Devourer have been very common, as you touched on a little bit earlier. That Soul Gem as well, or that Gem of Focus, I'm sorry, popping up there. But with that Divine...
I don't forgive you.
Yeah, that Divine Ruin, though, I think Dardis is maybe expecting a bit more lifesteal and healing to come from this team, but we haven't really seen it from Sack the Set just yet.
And there may be a little bit of action towards Streak Up here. Uses the ultimate just to peel for himself, but he's gone. Adapting shows up too little, too late. But here comes a rotation. Nika's on the way, and he's going to help out. Doesn't hit the Glacial Strike. Freeze. Still not enough damage. Silence is still alive.
He put him on the wrong side of the wall. Nika goes in. Glacial Strike still trying to fight through. Dardes going to try and bail on the back end, but it's a kill for Dardes. Tornado from Dardes. Takes down 1 at the very least, but that is a 2-for-1 trade, losing both Nika and Streak Up in that fight. And now Sack the Set have a little bit of time to kind of bail themselves out, go and farm up on the map, and try and close some of this lead that Rhinos have built up.
Yeah, I mean, that's all they can do at this point. Again, Fire Giant is just a little bit too daunting of a task. But to your point earlier, I think there is still a good bit of healing. I mean, you can see the Bloodforge blade for Deduin. Gunter, of course, going that Bloodbound book, which is going to be able to give you shielding based on your intelligence and, of course, lifesteal. I think that there maybe if Gunter gets Typhon's Fang, that's really going to be worth your money, but that's what you have to worry about. When you stack Bloodbound Book and Typhon's Fang, that's when the healing becomes almost too much to deal with. So I think Darda is just covering his bases and picking up that Divine Ruin just to make sure that Gunter can't absolutely pop off with some of that healing. It's probably a safe bet. It's not as if the item does nothing, even if there's no anti-heal, right?
See if something happens here in mid. Full party, essentially, from Leeds Rhino, now stacking up. Heading over towards the Fire Giant side, maybe just trying to find any picks they can get. Wall by Nika, cuts off one escape path from Gunter. Freeze is good, pulls out the beads, and that should be more than enough for Nika, but he had to use his own beads. Does a quick backflip out from Genetics to get away from that Stormcall ultimate.
Gonna be the end of the fight so far. 17-10 here for Leeds Rhinos. Again, we have not stopped talking about it. They have the lead, but it's not insurmountable. Team Sack the Set has been able to group properly. They're still being able to find farm wherever needed. And they haven't had to worry about a Fire Giant couple. Look at this. Team Leeds Rhinos already grouping around this Gold Fury. They know it spawns in about 30 seconds, and that is their target. This will be the third Gold Fury on the map. So after this, Ancient Fury will be on the cards. And that's something you definitely want to defend if you are Team Sack the Set. Something I wanted to mention as well, there is a upgrade to your wards available in the shop. Everyone gets their free ward, but of course for 300 gold you can upgrade to a sentry ward, and doesn't seem like anyone's opted to go for that yet. It's usually something you grab towards late game with your strength and your intelligence potions, but I was wondering if that would be something that supports opted to go for early, just to have vision control, but seems like that sort of meta hasn't really shown itself just yet.
Nah, it's been, okay, cool. We get our free ward. We'll throw it down when we get the opportunity to do so. But outside of that, no real prioritization towards vision control just yet. Group up of Bleach Rhinos over for Fury number 3. They can secure this one. And we'll be seeing at the very least that Ancient Fury popping up next. It is melting fast, and the Coke and Ultimate nearly there to secure. Genetics make sure with the last little bit of damage to get so. So that's now 3 Furies, 4 Leeds Rhinos, and we'll see the Ancient Fury will be the next one to spawn in. And Charlie, this is one of the more important objectives on the map once this one finally touches down on the battleground.
Yeah, that what we saw right there was Dagger of Frenzy and Death Metal popped together. Streak Up is making sure that his team is absolutely stacked when they get around these objectives, and objective control has never been something that teams have slept on. So make sure you're paying attention to those active items. The cooldowns are on Streak Up's hotbar there, 22 and 12 seconds respectively, and they can just blow up an objective whenever they have those available. It does make your overall damage a bit less, but let's be honest, Streak Up hasn't been lacking in the DPS department so far this game, so I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I was paying attention to Deduin's build, though. This Cernos in your bottom right hand of your screen. Deathbringer online, plenty of crit being built. I haven't seen too much of that burst crit happen, but when this Cern gets up close and personal, you will see that damage.
Real fast teleport out with the Torrent. It seems Leeds Rhino is trying to set up for Fire Giant again. We have a little bit of a standoff on this right side. Deduin was split pushing. Now he's going to head back to base. The call from the rest of the team of Sack Set saying, hey, Fire Giant might be on the table, and it started up by Leeds Rhinos. Trying to burn this one down, gets it down to about half HP, and there are the cooldowns from Streak Up trying to go through. Ultimate lands on the one, pulls beams away into the back line, goes it, but Nika able to secure the Fire Giant for Leeds Rhinos. Everyone's still alive for the time being. Good damage in from Dardas. Better wall by Nika. Locks one in, but Attapting couldn't get around the wall. Has to instead use the Brutalize to secure the kill onto Benko. Still one in the middle of all of them. Nika goes down, but massive damage coming in from Dardas. Throws down the Tornado before he goes down. Gunter picks up the second kill to fight for Sack the Set.
Yeah, so far 2 for 1. It really did seem like Team Leeds Rhinos wanted to bail, but then Nika got stuck and did some good damage, so they decided to go back in. I think you just take your Fire Giant on 4 and back out there, but without Benko, Sack the Set isn't going to be able to push up too much. A tier 1 in right would not be the worst option. I thought that was going to be a bit more of a coin flip. I mean, Dardas used that Spirit of the Nine Winds to try and confirm fire. Was a bit early. Luckily, Nika still had some solid burst damage, but after that, Team Sack the Set still were able to take Fire Giant off of 2. Is it the most impactful players, though? I would say not. Adapting really does need to be dealt with. So far, this Fenrir has been an absolute menace. Picking up his trinkets, make sure that he has a shield before the fight begins as well, is certainly going to be something that Sack the Set does not appreciate. Either way, you wait for Nika to spawn back in, Dardas to spawn back in, which has happened. Group up. You could stall for Ancient Fury, but I'm thinking they want these tier 2 towers.
Yeah, if you can grab these tier 2s and then maybe try and make use of that Ancient Fury passive towards Phoenixes, it'll be a lot stronger for you. Do you see? Nice silence. Walks up, grabs the extra little bit of gold. Quick wall from Nika, bails him out from the stun of the Bacchus on that Belch. And Sack the Set has done a good job kind of stalling it and delaying this Fire Giant buff just a little bit. Only 3 members now of the Rhinos team with that on, and now rotation from Sack the Set. Was wondering if we get a full rotation into that left lane. It's a split up team for Leeds Rhinos. They've only got 3 on this left side, 2 all the way back towards the mid lane. You do see Adapting now spotting out the Bacchus, calling out the rotation to the rest of his team. Genetics the one ganged up on just a little bit here by the Chalk and Bacchus, but we'll be able to backflip out.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember that Benko is on the other side of the map right now. Deathwalker is not here, so any fight that Leeds Rhinos take, they're happy with. Adapting ends up grabbing the beads there. Easy pickup. It does seem like they're grouping around this Ancient Fury. How quickly can Benko show up to this fight? He hasn't really revealed himself in quite some time, but I would imagine they know that the Bologna has not been around. Tier 2 tower might be the trade-off, but they're pushing up, J-Mac. They're not looking for the Ancient Fury anymore. Leeds Rhino's just going in.
No, Sack the Set didn't realize Leeds Rhino was just walking around the back end of the fight. Nika finds a wall and a stun onto one, but the target is Silence, who's very tanky. Big burst edge from the Anubis, not enough to kill Nika, and he doesn't have that feather cooldown to bring his life bar back up. So Nika falls down to Sack the Set. Still 3 with that Fire Giant buff, nearly took that Phoenix down on the left-hand side, but not quite enough damage, not enough time.
Yeah, Priel, I expected to see like a blink or something because of that cutoff, but does not have it online just yet. That blinking amulet is not quite fully realized, so the chase down isn't going to happen. Ancient Fury is the call here. It would seem Attack the Set are all grouped, adapting, standing tall. He wants to go in, but doesn't want to jump in without the squad.
Gotta take some time. Ancient Fury down to about a third HP. Sack the Set not wanting to commit to it with adapting nearby. And you do have to keep your thoughts on Dardas as that 0-9 wins. Adapting picks up one, pulls the boxes over to the enemy team, and it will be a big kill for Leeds Rhinos. But Banco able to take down one before falling at the very least. Banco now dealing with adapting, and big stellar burst damage from Streak Up. That was so much thrown over towards Sack the Set, and that's gonna keep going in. And Ubisoft's not gonna do nothing, and it's doing. Gonna try and stand tall against 3, but it's not gonna be enough. Streak Up with a triple kill in the fight puts Leeds Rhino on the front foot.
Wow, they're just going to group up and push mid. That's going to be the call. Nika's back up. Streak Up has plenty of DPS. Might as well run it down mid. No, they're going to go back. I thought this was the correct call, but they were going forward, so I guess they were indecisive about what they wanted. Remember, plenty of active items here to just boost Soul's damage. Both used just now, so Streak Up absolutely shredding through the Ancient Fury. That's going to disable the rest of the structures here for Sack the Set, and that's going to be very easy to try and push up now. You got plenty of time to do so, and you get this really eerie effect. Yeah, it is creepy. I saw it in the middle of the map, and I was like, I don't want to get near the Ancient Fury because she scares me, and I might have nightmares about her. But it makes your pushing a lot easier. So now Team Leeds Rhinos get to play it safe, wait for those active items to be back up for Streak Up, and then just roll forward. I don't know if you saw earlier, J-Mac, but they were just trying to get the Phoenix. They got it about half HP, and that was just with like Genetics and Streak Up attacking it. They could have done a bit more damage if the team showed up. So if that's any indication of how their siege is going to go, it's going to be scary stuff. Remember, that's just Ancient Fury, though. There is still a Fire Giant that is on the map, and it's going to be enhanced here soon.
It is a double Hussars on the side of Leeds Rhino, so that second wave that they can get trying to run back in, or maybe even trying to escape. But also it is a double Amanita Charm, the double Mushroom from the side of Sack the Set. So if a team fight goes bad for them, they have enough time, back up, resustain themselves. You get an immense amount of HP back at this stage of the game for every single player within that zone. Sometimes upwards of 500-600 per cast of it. It's on such a short cooldown. We'll see how it comes into play around the Fire Giant, though. Started up by Leeds Rhino and absolutely melting at this point. Wall from Nika just to try and zone away. 5 from Sack the Set, trying to get the fight going, but Fire Giant still being dealt with by Leeds Rhino. 0-9 wins, not going to get anything this time. And it's just Dardas being zoned out by the squad. Sack the Set continue their push forward, but the Duin might need to back away, taking quite a bit of damage. That Mushroom is going to keep him alive in the back line for the time, but Dardas gets one down, and it's starting to fall some lower HP on the side of Leeds Rhino as well. Nika's got to be careful, and that Feather used and on cooldown once more.
Yeah, and that was a big initiation from Nika. Barely gets out with 1 HP, and then, of course, adapting goes in, and Dardas is able to pick up the first kill of the fight. But those Amanita Charms, those little mushrooms, provide so much sustain that Team Sack the Set weren't really out. They were allowed to stick around for quite some time and just wait and see exactly what happened. No Fire Giant was pulled yet, but now Silence is up in 15 seconds. Will he be able to make it to this Fire Giant fight? Tough to say, but at the very least, Team Leeds Rhino surge forward. They want another pull. They want another engagement while it's still a 5v4.
My apologies, Charlie. I miscounted. There's 3 Amanita Charms because Deduin now has one as well. So an immense amount of sustain that way. But it's back to the Fire Giant once more. Same old song and dance from Leeds Rhino. Can they get something more off of this one? The ultimate used by the Chalk, but if Real is low, Brutalize will claim the kill. Nika, but the Big Sun gets the ultimate away from the Anubis, and Gunter takes down Nika for stepping too far forward. Now Genetics backflips away, misses the root, and it's a dive in by Banco, just slowly batting away at the health bar of the support. Quick back out for Leeds Rhinos. That's twice now they pulled Fire Trelly, and twice they've come up in the hand, and in fact, losing players in response.
And now it's Team Sack the Set. It looks like they want to go in for the Fire Giant. They're going to start the pull immediately. Remember, Deduin has plenty of crit. There is plenty of sustain as well. Who's going to step up first? It's adapting. It's Genetics. They're here, but they have not seen the health bar drop too low. They don't want to get baited.
No quarter HP, adapting and to try and go in, charging up that damage on the fire. It's low. 2,000 health remaining on the objective. Who's gonna take this one away? It's gonna be Dardis who steals the fire giant away and leads Rhinos with a massive objective steal. Nika, the only one who doesn't get a benefit from it, but great play by adapting to distract the team while Dardis can come in and clean up the objective.
Yeah, that's a great call, J-Mac. That was all the combination of adapting, stepping forward, taking DPS away from Sack the Set. They had to give a little bit of face towards him. This Fenrir is not a tank, right? He is just doing insane amounts of damage. So because they gave adapting the respect that he claims, Dardis could just walk up, go for the steal, and make it out scot-free. Unfortunate for Nika, didn't spawn in time, so doesn't have that fire giant buff, but I'm thinking Team Leeds Rhinos is okay with this one as they're able to go for the Ancient Fury once again. And now they have EFGs, they have all the active items they need from Shriek up to enhance their siege, and now they have the Ancient Fury disabling these structures once again. Great time to be on the Leeds Rhinos.
Now what will Leeds Rhino do with this Ancient Fury? Tier 2 tower still disabled in mid lane, so an option for them to go back that direction, but instead, it'll be a group up over towards left. Got some chip damage on the Phoenix earlier. All that has resustained itself back up. And Leeds Rhino just taking their time. Genetics distracting in the mid lane alongside adapting just to kind of divert the attention from Sack the Set. But maybe now recognize that there's 3 barreling down the left lane. You see all 5 players start to group back towards those Phoenixes to try and set themselves up
Genetics
for a defense.
Split pushing.
Genetics, he's got a little bit of damage in kit, but he's not doing an insane amount of damage just yet. Without the help of the minions there, it's going to take Genetics a little while to start pushing down that bird. Meanwhile, the rest of the team can start grouping up towards mid, towards left side to start pushing and putting some pressure on these other birds.
Yeah, but that's what Ancient Fury demands. Someone has to go stop Genetics, right? Even though he does 0 damage and is just tickling, eventually the bird will drop, so Gunter has to go over there. Oh, look at this. Silence has a gank. Beautiful play. Nika's taking some damage, but a lot more go in the way of Banco. Nika falls down, but can anyone get the kill?
Adapting goes in, brutalized through the Emanator Charm. It's just enough to take them down. Not enough. Sustain, and a Spirit of 9 wins. Doesn't get quite enough this time through to do and able to drop down Adapting, who dove into the back line. It's 3v4 around these birds, but once again, Sack the Set able to hold off and defend their Phoenixes. Genetics not a part of that fight at all. Did throw out that ultimate, but it just came up empty-handed for the side of Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah, and make no mistake, that was a fantastic engage by Eye Silence. The Bacchus, so disruptive, hits like a 3-man stun, 3-man intoxicate after that. You gotta just go for the immobile guy. The Ymir falls down. Nika just not tanky enough to take that amount of damage. Of course, Benko trades it out because Adapting goes deep to finish that kill. But now you've lost your Fenrir, and look at this. Team Sack the Set, group up. They're trying to find something. With 3 tier 2 towers still available, there could be some gold thereafter, or maybe a little bit of a wraparound play here. They are walking over a ward, so if they did go for the full-on dive, would have been spotted out. And it seems like that's all she wrote. So Team Sack the Set heads on back to base, and they're happy about stalling out an enhanced Fire Giant Ancient Fury push. And yeah, I'd say I'd be pretty happy about that one as well.
Yeah, Sack the Set. Well, the gold lead seems pretty bad at 12k up for Leeds Rhinos. It's not really all that much at this stage of the game. Sack the Set, only their support not fully slotted up just yet, so not a huge deal when it comes down to the deficit. But getting that caustic buff on a few different players now, April having the tier 2 of it, Gunter getting that 3rd tier caustic, means that this Anubis, all he needs to do is just tick you one time with any ability, and you're just going to have your life bar slowly drained away by that buff.
Picking up some buffs. On their way towards level 4 at this point. Still some level 3s for the team of Leeds Rhinos, but the majority of Team Sack the Set also have that level 4 buff. You can see Nika hiding in the grass on the left side of your screen, waiting to see who's going to walk up. You got to be careful. I mean, there's not too many wards. If you want to see inside of those bushes, you either walk into them and actually look, or you place a ward inside. And because of that, no one wants to walk up to these grass paths when they don't know exactly what's going on. But once again, keep your eyes on Bologna, man. Benko on the other side of the map, not grouped up. It seems like Deathwalker has no interest in actually grouping with his squad. He's just going to be split pushing whenever possible, grabbing these gold piles, trying to keep his team online. Nika might find something. Eye Silence gets the beads. And unless Adapting can find a Ragnarok here, he's going to lazy back. No way.
Oh, Ragnarok picks him up, brings him right back in. Streak up, credit to the kill, but Adapting and Nika, credit to the setup for that one. Now over towards the Fury, which should be respawning here shortly for the side of Leeds Rhino. In fact, already up. Could go for their third Ancient Fury. Now don't have to deal with the tier 2 tower in mid, but they just have not been able to push into this base and push any of their lead that they've had so far. We're just going to do a Priel freeze just off the mark, though, out of range for Nika, and just trying to get some damage on Sac2Set, trying to break some of those trinket shields that Sac2Set's carries have.
They're going for the Fire Giant. Yes, absolutely. Nika on zone duty. Look at the wraparound play here. It looks like Banco has joined, but already Fire Giant at 5k HP.
Dardes has the ultimate available. Will use it for secure. No, he won't. Gunter's able to steal it away. Sac2Set can turn this fight back around. Dardes gone. Benko shuts down Streak Up, and it's only 2 left alive on the side of Leeds Rhino. Dardes, just a miscalculation on the secure, and it's all gone south for Leeds Rhinos. Now Sac2Set can march up the left side, adapting, trying to make the hero play to save his support, but he's still gonna go down. Genetics walked back up to April, and it might be the last thing that Genetics gets to do this game.
This was all 4v5, J-Max. Silence running it down mid lane. He started this fight off getting picked, and now it might be ending this fight. And it doesn't matter. Team Sac2Set siege forward. It's just adapting. Does not have Ragnarok, and Titan is the target.
Doesn't even have enough damage to threaten them. Goes in for the stun, but immediately met with a storm call and a big L to the forehead by Didu. And Sac2Set take game number 1 off a massive objective steal and swing around the Fire Giant.
I mean, Gunter's 6-4, Deduin 9-3. It wasn't as if they were incapable of fighting back, and that's something that we kept mentioning, J-Mac. The fact that they had a gold lead, they had a kill lead, but it was never massive. It did seem like Team Leeds Rhinos were not able to siege forward. Their defense was so solid, Team Sac2Set rather. And I think that a lot of that goes to the engage that Benko was providing. Deathwalker on this Bellona was an absolute menace. Not doing too much damage, wasn't making the flashy plays, but when Silence wasn't there to engage, Benko still had it. And of course, April on this Chalk as well. I talked about the Chalk jungle before the game started, and my goodness, that Chalk jungle was also a threat, being incredibly tanky, but still having enough threat and disruption to say, hey, if you built full carry, you are going to be threatened by my damage. And that's exactly what I saw as well. No birds dropped, despite having that double ADC style composition where there's plenty of auto attackers. And of course, I'm counting Genetics as one of them. It seems like the push was the real issue there. And of course, the defense was just so strong from Team Sac2Set, now up 1-0.
Yeah, I think that's the important part, is just trying to go for these sieges, you know, trying to push towards these Phoenixes. Genetics splits himself away from the team. Has a little bit of global influence, but not quite enough to really make an impact around there. So the sieges, maybe something to work on here for their squad, though. We can kind of take a look at the bracket, though, because it's been a bit of a long day for some of these EMEA players so far. And remember, that was only game number 1. It's a best of 3 here in the grand finals for Sac2Set. Still have an opportunity to close this one out. And for Leeds Rhinos, still have an opportunity to try and claw this one back in, because they were leading for essentially the entire game. 4,000 or 5,000 gold up at almost any given point. Really went towards the late game that we started seeing that 9,000, 10,000 gold lead break out, but weren't able to do anything with it. I mean, Charlie, how many Ancient Furies did we see taken by Leeds Rhinos that just get absolutely nothing? I think a single tier 2 tower was taken with both of those objectives.
I do believe it was 2 Ancient Furies, and they thought about going for a third after that pick on Eye Silence. They decided against it. They go for Fire Giant. Doesn't end up working out. Something else to consider is that Team Leeds Rhinos decided to go for first pick. Now they don't have that option. Right now they have to think about, hey, we banned Loki, they banned Hades, and that got us an early lead early game, but we weren't able to close out game number 1. Some switch ups, possibly. Maybe we'll get to see Loki. Maybe we'll get to see Hades next game. Who's to say?
Yeah, we'll see what gets picked up, who gets that first pick spot, you know, what even maybe gets banned away. All that and more available for us in game number 2. This will be right after this break.
knows how to drive a truck, but she lets me pick her up when we're going dancing. My heart starts beating when my headlights shining on her. She's my country girl. I couldn't tell you what she's doing with me. She's so damn out of my league. She's a little bit crazy on the weekends, dancing in her red dress, and I love the way she looks in my eyes. And I'm feeling like midnight's getting closer, and I just wanna hold her in my arms till the sun comes up. She's a little bit country. Yeah, she's my country girl. She's a little bit country. Yeah, she's my country girl. She can let her hair down, but got her feet on the ground. I can't get enough of her. She can drive me so wild, just with that sweet smiling. There's nobody else for me. My heart starts racing every time I'm looking at her. She's my country girl. I couldn't tell you what she's doing to me. She's so damn out of my league. She's a little bit crazy on the weekends, dancing in her red dress, and I love the way she looks in my eyes. And I'm feeling like midnight's getting closer, and I just wanna hold her in my arms till the sun comes up. She's a little bit country. Yeah, she's my country girl. She's a little bit country. Yeah, she's my country girl. Guitar. Yeah. All right. Wouldn't lie to you. Doesn't matter what I do. She's got a hold on me. Ah. She's a little bit crazy on the weekends, dancing in her red dress, and I love the way she looks in my eyes. And I'm feeling like midnight's getting closer, and I just wanna hold her in my arms till the sun comes up. She's a little bit country. Yeah, she's my country girl. She's a little bit country. Yeah, she's my country girl.
Rated T for Teen.
Enough talk. Let's fight. Open the gates.
Smash you like a pancake!
Murder and seduce. That's what I do best.
Apocalypse awaken! Onward to victory!
Hi, my fans, and welcome back into the Smite 2 Alpha 2 tournament. And if you want to maybe take a chance to participate in some Smite 2 Alpha play yourself, whether it be for this weekend, for the next test that we do, or maybe even a future tournament down the line, then you want to become a founder. If you go over to smite2.com right now, you can pick up your Founders Edition for your platform of choosing, whether it be on PC, PS5, or Xbox Series S/X as well. Make sure that you go over there, grab your Founders Edition, because it comes with a lot more than just Alpha access, though, because you get every single Smite god in Smite 2 forever. Whenever it gets released, it'll be yours if you pick one up. Not only that, if you pick up some of the higher tiers, you can get Ascension passes, you can get exclusive skins as well, like the Night Stalker Neath, as well as the Fallen Zeus first tier 5 skin of Smite. And you also get Kakodim and Ymir just by picking up any of those titles, and all that and more available to you if you become a founder today. Remember, go to smite2.com and pick up your Founders Edition right now. And we can get ready to jump back in here to our next round of play in the tournament. We are still sitting in the grand finals right now. It's J-Mac and Trelly to kind of break down a little bit of game number 1 and get you guys ready for game number 2, because Trelly, game number 1 was completely in control by Leeds Rhinos. I mean, for 38 minutes of play, essentially, Leeds Rhino is just completely dominating this game. They've got a gold lead, they've got a kill lead, they've got the momentum, but it just felt like they did not have the siege plan altogether for themselves.
Exactly. It seemed like they were able to build a little bit of a lead for themselves, but they couldn't get it so insurmountable that Team Sack the Set couldn't come back. They weren't able to actually break the base and get some of these birds down, which can really help your push whenever you have, fire minions to deal with. Team Sack the Set was always able to group up and go for ambushes. They could 5v5 pretty consistently, except for the last fight that ended up deciding the game, which was just a 4v5. I mean, hi-Silence gets picked, ends up lazy backing, gives Adapting the free grab, pulls him back in. But I think what really messed up the team fight there, besides of course the EFG steal and just taking a lot of damage to Fire Giant, was maybe the fact that they used so many ultimates to kill Silence. After that, Team Sack the Set said, hey, we've got just about everything. We should be able to find a one fight here, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, not just that, as you mentioned, ultimates even used to try and secure the Fire Giant. You saw Dardes throw out that Spirit of the Nine Winds to try and lock that one in, and it didn't confirm, and Gunter was able to steal the one away. So now you're down a major burst damage from your mid laner, from your big burst damage dealer out there, and just not having anything for the follow-up fight after the split pushing that was coming out of Leeds Rhinos as well was a bit awkward. A 3-1-1. Sure, when the Ancient Fury is down, one thing that you talked about was you have to put somebody in every single lane essentially just to make sure that nothing gets snuck away. But with that awkward 3-1-1, we weren't able to really break the base this time for Leeds Rhinos. So we'll see maybe if things get changed out in picks and bans for game number 2 and on the battleground in game number 2. Leeds Rhinos do get that first pick. Last time we saw it was a Loki ban by the team. Opposite end for Sack the Set, it was Hades. Curious to see if one of those two changes out or if we'll just see the same bans come from these two squads.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm interested in as well. I maybe they're worried about the Loki, or they're trying to grab something else, right? They ended up going for the Neath pretty high up, which was something that, considering it went over towards support, was a bit shocking. But yes, they will just replicate that Loki ban. I wouldn't be too shocked if Sack the Set just opted to go for the Hades as well, because, they ended up getting their win, so why would they care? But does Team Leeds Rhinos just put pressure over towards that Neath, or do they want to switch things up? That is the real question here. Considering how Deduin had a pretty good performance on the CERN, I can't imagine that would jump too high up. So yeah, they will grab the Neath again. The question now becomes, does Genetics take it to support again, or will we see a bit of a switch up there as far as the role of which this Neath will be going to? But either way, I think Neath is going to be impactful. I mean, the World Weaver never loses value. Pretty good clear options, and just having that global presence is always solid.
Well, speaking of things being picked right back up, it's going to be the Bacchus for Silence on the side of Sack the Set, most likely, as well as the Chalk being locked in one more time. Like what we saw out of April is a bit of a rougher early game for April. Was able to kind of juke and jive a little bit to get away from some of the rotations, from Adapting, from Dardes, keep himself alive. But then late game just being that massive disruptive factor, jumping in with that Stormcall ultimate in the middle back line, forcing out whether it be mobility options in the forms of dashes and leaps to try and get away, or just burning purification beads from the side of Lead Rhino. So we'll see how much impact we can get out of the Chalk and the Bacchus this time again for Sack the Set. But Leeds Rhinos, they're not going to change anything either. It's the exact same top 3 from them, Trelly.
I mean, again, that's what I was thinking as well. It's not as if the game was just decided so early on. They had an early lead. They kind of were controlling the map, I would say, for what, 80-90% of the game. So it's not as if they have to change up the strategy entirely. Maybe just a couple of key decisions maybe would have been able to break that game wide open for them. So I don't hate the full run back, And so far, I mean, it's looking clean. The Anubis as well for Team Sack the Set. We may just see the full 10v10 or 5v5.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the maybe benefit and similar thing is, you know, with the small of a god pool as Smite 2 has right now, we're more likely to see those full run backs, but we're going to see one adjustment already. Last time we had the Ymir on the side of Leeds Rhinos. Seems like we're going to be swapping that out for an Odin and then taking the Bologna away from Deathwalker this time, which if you have ever followed the course of Smite 1 history, Bologna and Deathwalker go pretty hand in hand and pretty synonymous with each other at this point. So I like the call from Leeds Rhino to pull this pick away from such a storied player on that selection. It does leave open an Athena this time now for Sack the Set to draft up.
I expected Athena to be very high prio, at least in, you know, considering how the meta that I've seen go out so far. Athena jungle, Athena solo, just Athena pretty much everywhere is going to be strong, but picked up towards the end. I wouldn't be surprised if Deathwalker takes it. I also wouldn't be surprised if April wants to go for the Athena and just go for like a strength / crit based Athena jungle build. Either way, CC has been the name of the game, and Chalk, Bacchus, Athena, CERN, Anubis, all of which have plenty of hard CC, have plenty of ways to burn beads. So definitely a scary composition to go up into. Team Leeds Rhinos, I mean, I do like the, assuming of course that the Neath does go into a damage roll this time around, I do like the switch up there. Odin and Bologna are going to provide some of that help that adapting might have needed to try and pull some beads down. But if we're going off of composition alone, I got to be honest, I'm a little bit more partial towards Team Sack the Set.
Yeah, it feels like they've got a much clearer game plan on kind of what their composition wants to do. You've got your hefty front lines with the Athena, the Shock, the Bacchus, whichever one of those ends up being your jungler to be determined, at least for between Athena and Shock. But you just have your good standard, I'm not going to say safe carries in the side of Anubis and CERN, but Anubis by no means is safe, but immense amount of damage. Now not going up against a Kukulkan, might be a little bit more opt to try and go towards some of that lifesteal route. And I guess maybe the question is does this Odin or does the Bologna go over to the support role for Leeds Rhinos? I'd probably be more inclined to throw to be an Odin support, but this is genetics we're talking about, so there's no clue if we're even talking about the right two gods when we're talking about what genetics might want to run in that lane.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up as well. There's a very real chance that Dardes could just take one of those picks and give genetics back the Neath. We'll have to wait and see. But for me, if we're just going simple terms here, give Nika the Bologna, send Odin over to support, and then just let Dardes take the Neath. I think that would be the strongest option, but just because the strongest doesn't always mean it's the best. There could be some things that Team Sack the Set is not prepared for, and that could also just throw them off their game. There's a lot of different ways these compositions can be played, and that's partly strength to just how the Smite 2 splits up, you know, strength and intelligence, different scaling ways means you can kind of just, you know, have your freedom with where you want to play your picks.
Well, we don't have to sit here and speculate much longer as to where things are going. We can just jump right into game number 2 between Leeds Rhinos and Sack the Set. See who comes out on top here in game number 2. Our good friend Doug looking after our good friend. Are we going to go with Doug for the crab this time? Is that the official name we're going to go with? I'm gonna get a no on that, I guess.
That's my bad. I had to, Zeus found a squeaky toy, so I had to pick it up.
Okay. Well, wait. You are denying the fans a squeaky toy, Zeus?
Do you know how long and how loud it would be if we had squeaky toy Zeus in the room with me right now?
It'd be the same thing if we had Kepri with me, but unfortunately, you know, I don't get to have Kepri with me here at the studio at this point, so they'd just be having a squeaky toy battle at that point between each other.
Yeah, I was really hoping you would hold for like just 3 more seconds, and I had it covered. But
no worries, no worries.
What was the question?
I was saying, are we gonna stick with the official naming for the crab to be Doug? Is that what we're gonna go with? Is that the general consensus?
I'm a big fan of Doug the Crab. I can't lie. I think that Doug has earned the right to name the crab, or we have earned the right to name the crab Doug after Doug.
He's watching over the battleground, then Doug gets to go over and watch over himself. Just kind of check in with himself every time he jumps into the game. But as we jump now into game number 2 between Leeds Rhinos and Sack the Set, we do see that it will be the Neath going over for Dardes in that mid lane. So seeing the swap, genetics will be picking up the Odin for himself this time. So a bit more traditional as far as what you would imagine for a support style of pickup there. But Odin, kind of the big thing with him is being able to do a lot of damage. I mean, that range stun is nice. Sometimes not the easiest thing in the world to hit, but I do trust genetics, you know, former World's MVP from Smite 1, to be able to land some of those trickier skill shots.
Yeah, I mean, we can give him the benefit of the doubt for now. He was able to hit every Neath ult, so that is definitely a big up for him. at least so far. A lot of damage coming through for this lane so far. Already pulling the beads from Tadu, and that's going to be a great start. Remember, Adapting went for a pretty early gank over towards this lane last time, so keep your eyes on the dog. The Fenrir always has that ability at level 2. Just come over, find a nice stun, and look for a kill, especially onto the Doom with those beads down. But we're going to have to see exactly how potent this shock gank early on is, because you don't want to let Adapting get off to the same start he got last game, right? April is going to have to change up the playstyle at least a little bit and try and match that pressure. And it seems like so far has been matching the rotations. You can see when Adapting's at red, April's at red. When Adapting was in mid, April was in mid. So they are sort of mirroring each other, at least on the map currently.
Yeah, Adapting, instead of going for that early gank, just maybe going to focus a bit more on the early farm. Maybe try and help keep Dardas alive in the mid lane. Not the toughest matchup, I would say, for a Neath versus an Anubis. They have similar levels of clear. Anubis with that first and third ability able to clear out just about any wave once you hit that level 2, level 3 point. Similar, at the very least, for the Neath, throw out that 2-1 combo. Not have access to your backflip till that level 3 if you choose to do so, but against the Anubis, you don't usually have to worry too much about that until a stun is there. Solo lane's got a bit of a scuffle going on, and it's Nika who comes up with first blood up against Benko, who did take the Athena to the solo lane.
Wow, and that was off of the gank as well. You can see April showed up, maybe baiting a bit too hard. That would be my guess. I'm gonna guess April said, hey, I'm on the way, you know, bait your life. And Nika said, I will simply kill you, and it won't be a bait. It's going to be a first blood. And that's exactly where you want your first blood to be on. This Bellona has been such a tantalizing pick, and you know, Benko on it last game had a ton of impact. Getting Nika off to a great start, especially up against an Athena who can't really compare clear-wise for quite some time, is it's going to be rough for sure.
And see Dardas putting to use some of the changes that have come to that Neath. Drop that on Ravel, and now you get one of those weaves immediately on the ground for you to then fire off your first ability right after. So pretty simple, pretty easy clear for Dardas in mid lane. Going to get a little bit of damage on that tower by pushing in that little siege minion along with them. But with that first kill for the side of Leeds Rhino, able to build themselves that nice little 500 gold lead, primarily from that bounty. And I'm curious to see what Adapting does this game. He's been very quiet in these first 3 minutes, which sounds weird to say, but considering what Adapting was doing all the way in game number 1, feels like he would be a bit more active. We do see Genetics walking a bit awkwardly towards the enemy camp, but he's got some backup on the way. Here comes Adapting to try and help out his support. And a big stun on Isan as he jumps away and jumps in for Adapting. Streaka finds the auto to get the kill. April, one more auto takes him down. It's a double for Streak Up on the Soul. In a World Weaver from the mid lane. That might just spell 3 now for Streak Up. An early triple in the duo is a great start for Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah, that's about as good of a start as you could ask for. Shouts out to Dardas for supplying the ult and saying, hey, don't worry, you guys can dive. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, Isilent just tanks a little bit too much damage there, of course, giving Adapting the first stun, which helps out a ton. But then giving Streak Up level 5, you siege forward. April already used the teleport. Maybe sticking around a bit too long. Psych does not matter in the slightest. Genetics is still getting aggressive at this point. It does not seem there's going to be too much more action on the dual lane. Even with a gank here, you just pop your shield and jump out. I don't think Genetics is in too much trouble.
Warhorn goes over to Leeds Rhinos. Haven't gotten to talk about the Warhorn too much and the buff that comes its way. Being able to empower those minions in all of your lanes means you get a little bit of extra push power, maybe a little extra threat in those lanes, especially if you've already got a lead established. Genetics low in health, though. Wanting to defend this purple buff in case Sack the Set in their dual lane want to try and invade this one out, but just waiting for his dual lane partner to eventually show up. Streak Up will be on the way, so should clear this one no problem for the side of Leeds Rhino. And I wonder, you know, game number 1, we saw a lot of focus on sustain for the side of Sack the Set, whether it be having the Anubis and the Chalk with their inherent sustain in their kit, or the triple Amanita charm that we had come late game. I wonder how much priority we see in something like that for Sack the Set in game 2.
I wouldn't doubt that sustain is still going to be a very strong way to go about just, you know, keeping in fights. Adapting was nearby, decided not to go for the gank. But yeah, anti-heal was also pretty prioritized. I saw a couple curses. I saw Divine Ruins come through, so there's a couple options there. I guess Ruinous Onk is the true name in Smite 2. So a couple Onks that were picked up just, you know, as aura items that make 40% anti-heal come through. You still get a bit tankier when you pick that item up, so never a bad thing. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that same sort of style. Both Benko and Gunter both going with that same Soul Devourer start, just want that extra damage when proccing up against these characters. Not going to be a bad look, but Cage coming through. Do they even have the damage to do anything to Aprilia? I don't think so.
Feels like it was mostly just a zone Gunter out. Maybe keep Apriel from roaming anywhere either. Charge up the stun. Lands from Genetics. Darda's not going to follow up with it this time, but maybe just trying to deny some farm towards Gunter while adapting. Goes for a pick on the other side. Gets him with the bite of the Ragnarok. And a World Weaver onto the support once more. Silence able to jump away, but who else but Genetics to ring around the opposite end. Spot it out. Maybe been a ward or just a call out from mid, because that's an immediate pull from Benko on the Athena to go over to that dual lane to keep him alive.
Yeah, but that's the benefit about this pickup. Benko can very easily walk over to the teleporter that's right behind him and get over to Soul Lane if he needs to. It looks like he's going to try and defend purple, but that's too little too late. One kill and the purple buff goes the way of Leeds Rhino. Yeah, they've got no problems there. Benko's got to waltz on over to the teleporter and head back over to solo lane. I do believe Apriel covered the wave, so it wasn't the worst option. Teko Kage once again. First item for Apriel. Just works out. When you're playing a jungler that wants to spam abilities like that, not going to be the worst option, but adapting on the other side, this goes Jotun's Revenge. Get a kill, get some cooldown resets. Also not a bad look. The base stats are certainly strong as well. You want that cooldown rate whenever you can, especially when you're an ability-based jungler, so I'm not going to hate on either one of those starts.
Bit of pressure on Dardas. He's able to backflip away from Gunter. Do you see the double Soul Devourer pickup on the side of Sack the Set? One from the Athena on Benko, one from Gunter on the Anubis. So a lot of extra damage that'll come from those two as the game continues to progress just a little bit further. But a bit slower of a pacing here. 5-0 to start this game for Leeds Rhinos. They've got about a 2,500 gold lead off of that one. Haven't decided to eye towards an objective just yet. Instead, it's ganks over on the left-hand side. Is able to escape, is Streak Up. Uses the beads, though, during all of that. Insane for Genetics. World Weaver does manage to clip one. Genetics jumps out just in time to avoid some of the extra damage and follow-up coming from Sack the Set. Empty-handed on the dual lane kills, but do get 2 sets of beads.
Yeah, I mean, it was close to being a kill, I think, because of the Hand of Abyss start. Dardas wasn't really doing too much damage anyways. That's more so your basic attacks that are getting buffed from that item. Still some good intelligence, but you're more so scaling a bit later on. Purple buff. Invade a little bit late. Apriel isn't going to be able to pick that one up, so Streak Up gets to confirm his own purple. But still, keep your eyes on Apriel, man. This chalk has been showing that he wants to get aggressive whenever possible. It's just difficult. With that wrap off the mark, Dardas can just backflip out of danger. But at least confirms the gold pile. So 30 gold for the squad. Definitely nothing to shake a stick at. Still helps out when the whole team gets 30 gold. That's impactful.
Ooh, Ragnarok into the tower. That's going to be a kill on Benko. Taunt just as a last-ditch effort to try and get anything going through. But Leeds Rhinos, they get the Warhorn. They get an extra pick. Now extend their kill count to 6-0 versus Sack the Set. A bit of a rough early game for the Chaos side team. Haven't been able to really get anything going just yet. These Athena ultimates defensively earlier on just to try and bail out the dual lane, but hasn't been able to get a whole lot of help on his side of the map just yet.
No, not quite. And it's just been farming pretty consistently for the mid laners. Dardas and Gunter, I mean, Dardas sends out the ultimate, but you haven't really seen them get too active either. Genetics, unfortunately, is not letting the duo breathe. The duo lane is a duo lane.
Wait, you took the whole thing?
You wanted to get hit by all of them? You could move.
Nah, clearly not. Moving is optional, Trelly, and he chose to take that option to never move an inch from Supernova, and because of that, it's going to cost Benko his life as well. Rampage for Streak Up, 5-0-1. 10 minutes into the game, this dual lane is starting to get out of hand for Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you have a tank Yodin in the forefront of your duo lane. Silence shows up, tries to find something. Streak Up seems to be the target, but without Gunter's damage, can you find it? Yes, the answer was yes. I thought the Disaparate was coming. No, Streak Up did not go immune and just gets absolutely blown through. Finally, Team Sack the Set is on the board, thanks to a nice rotation from Gunter, but Apriel is going to be the one to pick that kill up.
And so will be first kill on the board for Sack the Set. Can we go over to the jungler? Not the worst thing that you could go for that one. Try and get Apriel a little bit back in this one as well, as he's starting to fall behind to adapting. 204. Speaking of adapting, being chased out by 2. Used the beads a little late along with the Ragnarok. Whoa. Just able to escape in time. Axe is there, and Apriel Gets the second kill now for Sack the Set, now shutting down the jungler.
Wow, adapting loses speed, loses ult, and still falls down, and you lose your speed buff in the process. Man, Team Sack the Set, besides Deathwalker, of course, is finally answering back. This Athena, unfortunately, just cannot exist in that lane currently with how Nika is. But everyone else, wait a second, Aphriel has to time it out, and it's a third! My goodness, this Chalk does not care.
No, that doesn't matter which lane, doesn't matter if you're going under a tower or not, Chalk's just gonna run at you. Aphriel has done just that. This single Teko Kage that he's picked up is starting to pay off dividends for him. Hasn't even had a chance to really go back and build up an item. Just now goes back and goes from a single tier 1 Charlie to a full Soul Devour plus some extra.
Ooh.
That's a massive buy.
Yeah, you say that, and then I just saw what Nika just did. My goodness. I mean, I was just going to touch on the Meteor Hammer, the item that, you know, that resembles Dominance from Smite 1. Just very, very powerful on auto attackers. Essentially deals extra damage in an AoE based on your protections. So get tanky and then just, you know, auto attack. And then he just gets like 2 tier 2s and a tier 1 all off of that kill. Unfortunately for Benko, I mean, let's just watch the trades, right? There's not going to be much that Athena wants to do here. You stick around, you clear, you leave. That's been the call. You can see Benko just goes for that Soul Devourer, and then of course the Amanita Charm needs a little bit of that sustain, so active items in that slot. But you're not scrapping with Nika right now. I would say he's the strongest on the map by a wide margin. Even with the level advantage that Gunter has, this Bellona is an absolute threat. But so is the Chalk.
Yeah, Streak Up, who was kind of just dominating and running through this early game, started up 5-0, now 5-2, 2 deaths in a row for the carry on the side of Leeds Rhino. Maybe Sack the Set. Gonna try and bail out their carry. Odin Cage dropped down by Genetic. Ragnarok will pick up one. And he pulls him away. Adapting, going for a box match. Will end up taking down Zatuan, but they've lost just about everything else. Nika rotates in, loses his life. That's 2 kills for the side of Sack the Set, only losing out on their 0-3 at the time. CERN, not the worst trade out for Sack the Set. They're clawing their way back in this game.
Yeah, they're not going to be too upset about it. I saw the rotation in from Nika, and I thought Goldfrey might have been the target. Genetics has not left. It doesn't seem like he wants to. He's just following around, trying to see what else can come from it. Remember, Dardes hasn't been rotating. He has just been prioritizing farm, trying to steal away camps whenever necessary. And Gunter as well, throw him in the mix. So these mid laners are just getting, you know, more damage online than just about anyone else. Haven't really seen it used just yet, but keep in mind that when they do rotate in, we're going to see some big damage numbers coming from the Neath and the Anubis.
I wonder what level of gold right now that Gunter is sitting on, because it's like 3 full item plus a tier 1 now available to Dardes. Meanwhile, Gunter's just sitting on 2 full items himself.
I bet he gets a full Bloodbound book off this back.
He's got to get something. He's got to be pocketing a lot of gold to be a full item down, at least from what's been shown so far against the opposition. But maybe after one more wave, we'll see him go back, kind of full buy something. We'll kind of get an idea as to where Sack the Set's mid laner wants to go with their damage.
Okay, as far as first of all, Streak Up Supernova was a little bit worried about the CC, but adapting is here. Genetics on the way. You don't got beads, and the Neepo, you dashed away from the support. The Neepo confirms the kill, and Silence should definitely be falling down as well. You got some time, but no one on your team is showing up. In fact, Aphriel on the other side of the map is something. This should be gold and a kill for sure.
I think that Silence was hoping that he was able to jump over that wall, but the pit into the Gold Fury is a bit too wide there for a Bacchus's jump. You see Genetic Elite jumping over the corner of it, and now starts up the Fury for Leeds Rhino. They've been sitting on about a 3,000 gold lead for a good while now in the game. This should give them a nice little push forward to add up against the opposition. We'll see what Sack the Set's response will be. Maybe it's a gank on towards Nika. We see 2 over that direction, but gonna come into hand instead. I actually see maybe one of the first few uses of teleport for some form of, whether it be offensive or defensive play there. Aphriel went for a gank in solo, immediately went over to dual lane instead.
Yeah, you're gonna look towards Streak Up is the question. You've got the gank, but do you have 100 to 0 potential? That is the question here. Streak Up does have a Benko ultimate on the way. Can it reach? Yes, the damage is there. Now you just wait up to separate again. No one is coming to help you, Streak Up. You're on your own. And Benko finally on the board. First kill of the game. Deathwalker needed that. He has been having some struggles finding farm on the right side of the map, but you can always ult left and find some kills.
Tired of being farmed. Wanted to do a little bit of farming himself.
Build. Am I good or what?
You're just too good at this, Trelly.
Full bloodbound book on the back. My goodness. And he could have went pen. He could have went cooldown. No.
He could have gone
wanted
anything.
The bloodbound book.
He could have gone defense, but nope.
It's possible that I incepted him. I mean, he can't hear me, but it's possible.
Neath ultimate thrown over to the right side of the map. Perfectly catches eye silenced with it. That'll be a pick 4 side of Leeds Rhino. Benko leaves the lane. Doesn't matter. There's still action happening over in the solo lane. Still another gank that direction. This time, unfortunately, it's towards the support for Sack the Set. A bit of a battle around the Warhorn, maybe. April showing their way over with Benko on the way as well. This will be a 2v2 battle for the Warhorn between the two. Taunting Genetics back, preventing him from trying to take that one back. Won't be able to do so. This is the fun battle of the Warhorn, is trying to see who can hold the cap for it. But now it's a third member on the way. Nika goes for the Eagles rally, but just gets the beads away from Benko.
So far, that's the end of the scrap. Streak up. And Dardis, 5 members of Leeds Rhino all the way over in solo lane. Looks like tier 1 tower is their call. And might as well. You got 2 tower bounties ready to claim. Wait, they're not even going to get that? They rotated over for Warhorn as far as I'm concerned, J-Mac. That's about all they can find.
They're not even going to get it. It's just going to be capped right in response back. So you send 5 people. You don't get a kill. You don't get a tower. You don't get tower bounties. You don't even get the Warhorn. Just all for naught at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It is giving Sack the Set away back into this game, but it wasn't as if they got too much in return. I watched Ado and he pushed up left, but tower was already down, so no real gold there. Mid tower got looked at, but silence is a Bacchus, so you're not going to be able to get too much action there either. And yeah, Warhorn goes the way of Team Sack the Set. That's going to enhance their next minion wave, at the very least. Help out some siege and help out some defense. Keep those waves nice and pushed.
So Darda is here in mid. Does manage to get the Divine Ruin online, so answer to some of the sustain. They'll eventually creep its head around the way. As mentioned earlier, that Bloodbound book that's picked up by Gunter, a little less valuable now. At least whenever you're fighting up against Dardas. You do see a Brawlers as well. This is something we saw adapting go in the previous game, was Brawlers.
Yep.
Just to make sure to continue to apply the anti-heal, whether it be just by himself or going hand in hand alongside with Dardas, to just make sure that there is as little healing as possible available for Sack the Set.
Yeah, if you're able to stack Bloodbound Book with Typhon's Fang and there's no anti-heal, you're unkillable if there's 2 like people around that you can hit. Like it is very strong. Next is here, Cage available. No Blink Amulet. Looks like just trying to find the stun and a good juke. But if you go around the corner, you're giving him the angle. And here comes Nika. Even with the Deathwalker, I don't think that's enough. Benko just might have given him another kill.
Yeah, Benko goes down here momentarily, being chased out by 4. Will be a kill for adapting. Iton's on the way. Ragnarok used. Not enough damage. Adapting lives just barely. Instead, it might be a push back in, but I don't think that they recognize that April is around the corner. Even with Dardas here, this is going to be at least 1 more kill. No, the Bloodbound book comes in to keep him alive for the time being. Somehow Gunter's still alive. Gets the wrap on Dardas, but does April have enough to clean up any of these kills? Pops the beads, goes in for the torrent, gets 1 on him before going down. The hammer, it's off the mark by Nico. April is still alive, healing up through the rain. Spin with the torrent just to stay alive a little longer. Throws out the axe. And somehow April gets out of this fight, but he might not be done yet.
April doesn't seem like he wants to be done. Remember that Tech Okage means every time he spams abilities, he's gonna get a little bit stronger. The Bloodforge bait! The shield is streak up half. Too little, too late. My goodness, you gotta pay attention to those active items. That was such a clean bait. The torrent, not enough damage, and he's gone. And even if he did get the kill, definitely trading out. Unfortunate there. April was the shining ray of hope here for Sack the Set, and getting shut down like that off of a beautiful bait from Relics is going to be a bit unfortunate. Something to note. Oh, never mind. We're just going to see a Ragnarok pulling sides out of the tower. Should just belly flop out, but adapting. I want to chase this one down. Good route from Deduan means that he won't be able to. But either way, different build path here from Streak Up. Remember, he went a lot of active items last time. Still has them, but ends up going for the Balor's Eye. Wants some magical penetration a little bit earlier on this time around, as opposed to last game where he was like, I want Death Metal, I want Frenzy, I want Blood Forge. Just give me 3 active items so I can own Phoenixes. A little bit different, but hey, the tanks are going to be feeling it.
So now what do Leeds Rhinos do? Fury is up. Never mind. That's the answer. They want to go to Gold Fury. They want to take that one down and notch number 2 in their column. This is a very similar pacing to what we saw in game number 1, where as soon as Furies are up, I think it's about 18.5 minutes last game for the second Fury to go down. So just a little bit further behind, but still almost the same level of dominance. I mean, game number 1, we were sitting 5,000 gold up consistently for Leeds Rhinos throughout the early stage of the game. It really wasn't until some of these first fire giants are going down that we started to see that 9,000 gold lead go through. But by the time we got to the more drastic styles of leads, we were so late into the game, Charlie, that they just couldn't really make any use of those big leads.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I mean, you got to be able to break the base. You have to be able to, you know, mount your sieges as carefully as you can. Take a look at the relics and just the wards on the side of Leeds Rhinos. Yeah, there's not a much available. Beads, wards, they use just about everything. So probably smart to just dial this one back, sort of wait for an engagement opportunity. Usually it's been genetics. He does have the cage and can just sort of, you know, siege forward whenever possible. Stacking 2 ruinous onks though. Oh my goodness, April! See ya later. Just dancing on top of the supernova thanks to the old combo there from adapting. You're tanky for sure, but not tanky enough to survive the 2v1. And Streak up 8 and 3 on top of the 6 and 1 from adapting. These are the 2 you got to watch out for on the side of Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah, Streak Up's playing with both sides of the coin right now. The head side, I'm going to go on a 3-5 kill streak. And then tail side, well, why don't I die a few times in between those and then flip the coin right back over. It's working out well for Leeds Rhino. Jump in to try and chase out Silence. Belly flops down, so that should just be a kill onto the box. It's a matter of who gets it. It will be Nika to close out that kill for Leeds Rhinos. Now what do they do with it? Charging up that stun. Pops the early beads from Genetics. Gunter in a bit of danger, but Genetics in even more so. Health bar low on the side of the Leeds Rhino support.
Remember, this is exactly what happened last game. A pick on a silenced into a group around fire, but not pulling fire giant this time. Instead, looking up towards right lane, it would seem. Team Sack the set, still splitting the map quite well, but they're not giving this tower up without a fight. 3 members of their squad showing up to defend the tier 1. And notably, that's a level 18 Anubis. Like, Gunter is online.
He's farming.
He has plenty of damage. And you were right. Last item. The item that gives you even more cooldown rate based on your intelligence. So plenty of damage that is going to be coming out of Gunter here. This Anubis is certainly a threat.
With the 1 pick onto Silence, not much more that Leeds Rhino are able to get from there. Put a little threat towards the fire giant, at least get some vision inside of the pit, but still haven't been able to take down this tier 1 tower. This is multiple times we've seen 3-4 people rotate to the right side of the map, maybe look for a tier 1 tower, but then just give it up immediately after. Now it's Streak Up and Genetics here. Genetics could just tank this tower if he wanted to. For Streak Up, won't do so. Instead, it'll just be Streak Up, walk in, pop the dagger of Frenzy, and take down that tier 1 tower. It's a nice little gold influx over to the side of Leeds Rhino. So how will Sack the Set respond? Looks like they've started grouping up towards mid lane, but not a whole lot going on right now, Trelly. And that next Fury coming up, maybe in about a minute. You think that's where Leeds Rhino puts their priority?
I mean, that's got to be the call, right? Left side of the map is just so potent, but it's such a lethal combination. I talked about it a bit, but Gunter going the Eldritch Orb and then Cosmic Horror combo, where the more intelligence you have, the more cooldown rate you get, really just means that's all you need. If Gunter starts sending out this damage like he already has, he's got the shielding, he's got the tank damage with the Soul Devourer, and then he has all this intelligence. This Anubis is still a threat, and having one of the top levels on the map, besides, of course, adapting, who just went to 20 immediately, means that if Sack the Set can sort of play around this Anubis, they may be able to get something going towards these objective fights. I mean, this is still... I mean, I feel like we're playing repeat, man. 4,000 gold lead. Leeds Rhinos have the kill lead by a lot, but they haven't been able to translate that into much. It's exactly like game number 1 went, J-Mac.
And speaking of things that are repeating, at least the double Amanita for Sack the Set. 1 for April, 1 for Banco. So has the sustain if these fights go a bit longer. World Weaver hits in. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but there's plenty of follow-up. No, will be able to pull themselves out of the ring. Uses the beads as well for Silenced. Able to escape the onslaught. Triple ultimate used to try and kill the Bacchus. And Silence is at half HP, going right back in to try and get more done because he's got Banco on the way with the Athena. Crashes right down in, stun onto Genetics. He leaps away for the time being. But what can Nika get done in the backline? A big Eagles rally alongside of Adapting, who picks off Silence. Finally, they take down the pesky support on the side of Sack the Set, and one more with it. April goes down to Streak Up.
And it looks like Team Leeds Rhinos are still sieging forward. Genetics with 1 HP sticking around. You gotta just let this one go. But Sack the Set, they haven't left either. They're sticking around here. They want to make sure that Fire Giant does not get done. And it seems like that is going to be the case. Still, the carries are threatening, but not so threatening that you can step forward in a situation like this. I mean, Silence took a lot of damage there, and I have been liking these Athena engages, but it's been a Priel falling down time after time. Not enough to stick around in these engagements. But Team Lead Rhino, they weren't able to use that to their advantage just yet. They didn't get Fire Giant off it. They didn't get Gold Fury. They're just sort of sitting around. I mean, sure, the gold is important, but eventually you are going to reach a point after you get your strength pot and your intelligence pot where the gold just doesn't matter anymore. And it's all about, you know, how these team fights play out. And if Silence has his beads and his Phantom Ring available to get out of this Odin cage, it's not going to be easy to find these engages.
Yeah, but Leeds Rhinos have to play very carefully. 130 plus seconds on every set of beads that are on cooldown for the moment. The only ones who haven't used their beads are the frontliners, Nika and Genetics. Have theirs for next team fight, but with over 2 minutes before your carries maybe feel safe to be able to step forward. Gonna try and play a bit more passively. Genetics jumps out, stun off the mark from that Mummify out of Gunter. Still plenty of damage. In fact, for Gunter, going back after that, picks up Balor's Eye for himself, so plenty of pen available for the mid laner now. You can just kind of figure out what this final luxury item is gonna be for him as we start to approach our way towards the 30-minute mark. Fury's back up, Fire Giant's available. Haven't really seen Leeds Rhino kind of posture towards this left side of the map in quite some time.
Haven't feel confident. Maybe they want more level 20s. Could be the call. Dardas is close. Streak Up is close. Nika's 2 levels off. It does seem like they're playing this one about as slowly as you can because they recognize they did throw last game, right? They had the lead, they had the EFG, they had the Ancient Fury, and they were not able to close it out. So I think playing it safe and just trying to get, you know, as many advantages in your favor is going to be the call here. We talked about those upgraded wards. We're already seeing that. Genetics opted to go for the Sentry Ward upgrade. Not as if he's full build. He's level 14 as Odin support, but vision also important around these Fire Giants.
I think there may have been
that's gonna be the call.
I think there may have been a call out by Sack the Set. Few players went back to base, but never mind. Just gonna group up around Fire and head back towards mid. I thought for a moment we were gonna see them try and pull the objective, considering a couple of key players had gone back to base. Stun lands on Genetics. He jumps into the middle of 3. He's got Nika's backup. He goes Rally and a World Weaver collide in, but it's all gonna be funneled into one person. Adapting jumps in. Gunter goes down, and that's a pivotal part of the fight that Sack the Set need, but it's Deduin and a Priel to crash the party, immediately taking down 2 of Leeds Rhinos. Genetics low in HP. The mushrooms healing at all fronts of the fight allows them just to continue funneling forward, and they'll take down Streak Up because of it. Sack the Set. Now events double toss by Banco might have just turned this one from 3 kills to a full white potential. Genetics jumps out, a Priel chasing. Axe isn't there, and the spin just a bit far behind. Instead, it'll be focused towards this tier 2 tower.
My goodness. I mean, and that's the difference between a Fenrir and a Chop, right? A Fenrir can just blow up one person, easy engage, great CC. A Priel hits a massive ultimate and just blows up the enemy team. Looks like they're splitting the map here. Are you going to go for a Fury? Are you going to go for a Fire Giant? Or are you just going to take away farm? So far, Team Sack the Set hasn't figured it out, but that has essentially closed up this gold differential. I mean, you need to kill Gunter, right? He has so much damage. I love that engage from Leeds Rhinos, but they really were not able to disperse enough. I think because of all the AoE the Team Sack the Set has drafted, you're really punished from just grouping up on Adapting's ultimate or on Genetics' ultimate. And that was really showing exactly how good this Athena pick can be. Benko got 2 or 3 pivotal taunts there on top of a beautiful Defender of Olympus that just helps keep your team alive for such a long time. And now, yeah, that goal lead is all but gone at this point.
Charlie, you think Soul Devourer might be a bit of a good item? Because, you know, looking across the board here, I'm seeing like 6 of them on the map between the 2 different teams. 4 of those 7 on the side of Sack the Set. You see a 7th one? Or am I miscounting now?
No, you're right.
Oh.
You were spitting. I'm the dingus.
I was trying to say. I was wondering if you were setting up for something. I was like, am I missing? I thought you had something loaded in the chamber for me there.
Nope. Just I'm a fool. I thought because I've seen Team Sack the Set get 5, and they got 4, and I saw 2 on the left side. So I assumed that I silenced had one, or not I silenced rather, but say it again.
That's 4 mushrooms for Sack the Set.
Hey,
4 soul
sustain-
devourers, 4 mushrooms.
Sustain is the name of the game. That seems to be the call here. April did finish that blinking amulet, so yeah, pay attention to the chalk. Has still been the it factor here for Team Sack the Set, and now they're stepping up aggressively because Athena is on the map. You could just stick around wherever you want.
Walk forward, get some pressure.
He's teleporting. He's gonna just go split push.
Why not? What else you got going on? What else are you gonna do as an Athena at this point in the game? They don't even know that he went that direction. They're just assuming that Athena is over here. They're gonna get a nice little awakening whenever they see Benko up here on the left side of the map on a minion wave on that tower. But I wonder what leads Rhino does at that point. Do you try and go for an engage, knowing that it's gonna take a moment for the Athena to get there, or do you just sit on your hands and kind of wait, knowing that Athena will be able to jump into that fight? Adapting spots out Benko, speed buff, or that Pathfinder stolen away. So a nice little benefit there from Benko. Even going over towards the Fury, nothing that Athena can do by themselves. Just distracting more than anything. And by forcing one player to the opposite side of the map, maybe not as valuable as it would be in something like Smite 1, just because you don't have access to those teleporters immediately. But still, forcing somebody to the opposite end and forcing them to take a really awkward path to the teleporter is ideal for Sack the Set.
That has been the call, but so far no team feels confident just going in for an EFG. It's available. It is there on the map. It's just been poked. Genetics finds a good stun. Whoa! Look at the cage. He's done. April's gone.
Supernova's just coming in clutch again for Streak Up. That's the second or third time he's gotten the full duration of it off on a single target, and it just absolutely melted through their health bar. Now it's a 4v5 in favor of leads the Rhino. Sorry, a 5v4, I should say, for their squad. But grouping up in mid, not going towards Fire, not going towards the Fury just yet. Leeds Rhino got their pick, but by the time they get anything done with it, April's going to be right back on the map.
Depending on where they head, I mean, remember, this is not Ancient Fury yet. There's only been 2 Gold Furies that have went down so far, so if that's what their plan is, get an Ancient Fury online. Have the ability to do so. Team Sack the Set still urging forward. Without the Odin cage, it seems like the engage is a little bit worse for wear. Eagles rally in, doesn't pull much. Now Nika just sort of vibes up, but here's another K from Adapting, waits out the beats, and is able to pick him up.
Right back in, a few mushrooms dropped on the map, but they're all so far away. Adapting goes down. Gunter, credit for 1. 2 low health bars, but that's the power of the sustain that Sack the Set has invested so much currency into, is they just drop 3 different mushrooms out in the middle of the fight, and it keeps the team alive and healthy.
Wow, that was such a good play by Adapting, too. He did the same thing where he misses the bites on purpose to try and bait out the beads. The Zewan takes the bait, drops the beads, gets picked up anyways, but when you build full damage like Adapting has done, it's not as if you can just walk by 5 people with someone in your mouth and expect to, you know, be able to go through there. And as you said, the sustain certainly helped out. And now, with a 1-man advantage, Team Sack the Set walks up towards the Fire Giant. They have plenty to go here. April wants to go in the back lane. Remember, he has the blink available. Nika is trying to go through the wall here. Look at that cage from Genetic, just trying to separate the fight.
Yeah, but it's only got Eye Silence inside of it. Meanwhile, it's going to be Benko coming in with the Athena ultimate. Defender of Olympus is good. Genetics is low, but able to get the shield off just in time. It's Nika in the middle of a bunch of them. He's getting some good damage off, but it's going to be Streak Up who goes down first to Gunter. Eagles rally in. Nika takes out 1, trying to get a second, and will manage to do so. And Nika's able to sneak away. Dash in by Benko. Managed to clean up that one. It's a box between the Hunters, but Dardes is now surrounded by 2, trying to back out with Genetics in the back line. Not going to be an uneven fight here for Dardes.
Yeah, that thing is on the way. Wants to try and chase down. Ragnarok should give plenty of movement speed to catch up, but you gotta go carefully. The Duin does have a lot of damage here. Uses the ultimate just to try and separate. And it in for pickup, and he should die here, but a good dash extends his life just a little bit longer. Now, there surely is a Fire Giant pull here from Team Leeds Rhinos. I mean, they've got all the pressure in the world.
You got 1 going back to base. Sorry, make that 2 who already went back immediately. Adapting's just going to clear out the jungle, pick up this caustic buff for himself, and can reunite with the squad. Still 10 seconds till Streak Up is back up. Another 10 after that towards Nika till Nika respawns. With the awkward staggered cooldown or respawns of both teams, doesn't really seem like Leeds Rhino are going to go for this Fire Giant just yet. They've got the man advantage, but Benko's already back on the Athena and ready to defend this objective. Seems like we're going to be stalling out for another team fight here, Trelly.
I guess so. I mean, you got 22 seconds without it doing. So if Team Leeds Rhinos wants to go in for a pull, they certainly have it. It's going to be all on genetics, though. Can he find a cage, right? That has been the driving factor. That has been the engage so far for Teams Leeds Rhinos. I mean, April even had a pretty good flank, but Nika just shows up massive for his team there. Plenty of auto attack damage onto this Bologna. World Weaver out, adapting, tries to find it, but April is able to juke out. Plenty of damage from Gunter, but now he's stuck in the cage.
No sustain available to him, but he's fine with that because it's just genetics inside of the cage. The crash into a defender of Olympus should be the death of genetics. Gunter credit for the kill. And now the surge back forward, a blink in from April. Get some good distance. Streak up, trying to sustain, but he's fighting up against two. Bako and Silence batting away, and that's going to be enough for 3 kills now on the side of Sack the Set. And with those sustain, they're able to just keep the fight surging forward. No one down on their side, and plenty of healthy bars on the side of Sack the Set. Lead Rhinos, they got to once again go on a 2-man defense. This time it's adapting in Nika to try and defend against 5. Sack the Set. Will they push in? Will they back up for fire? It seems the call is to go for the end. 23 seconds till Genetics is back up. Can the side of Lead Rhinos go for the 2v5 defense? Beat pop by Nika. Disarm is good. It's delaying his life bar, but that Storm Call gets no value from April. Nika just going back and forth, distracting as long as he can. Adapting goes in, but it's a death on Nika. A bite onto one. He pulls him into the fountain, and that's good to stop April, but can Adapting stop the defense on 4 of them? The offensive Sack the Set. It's down to half. Genetics is back in. The cage availability blinks in, but he's down the cage in the middle of 3. They have done the defense just enough. Even if they don't get the kills here, they've got 6 seconds till Dardis is back up. They can just keep this one going. Sack the Set is stuck around for too long, Trelly.
They need to leave, but they can't. They dropped another restorative amulet. Can Gunter even escape? He's such an immobile Anubis. He's going to keep running. Genetics on the way, wants to find the stun. World Weaver coming through, connects onto Gunter. You got to feel, but here comes Brutalize. They can't stop.
Oh, it's not enough damage.
Adapting's gone.
Gunter keeps that one in, keeps alive. Genetics walking forward, but you're at a quarter health, Genetics. I don't think you want to step up, even if it's lower health on their side. Sack the Set. They get the mid Phoenix. They get some good damage on the Titan, but they get distracted for too long against Nika, and then Adapting with the clutch play, picks up one, pulls him into the fountain, and just delays the game a bit longer for Leeds Rhinos.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but Gunter had ult, couldn't decide whether to try and burn through Nika's health bar, burn through Adapting's health bar, or go on the Titan, and ended up getting not much value from any of it. And Adapting, you said it, comes up massive, finding that pull onto April, knew the beads were down, knew there was no CC immunity, and is able to pull you into the Titan. But now, Fire Giant. This has not gone down yet, J-Mac.
No.
Ancient Fury has not gone down yet. This is going to be the first major objective if the health bar drops to 0. Genetics is the only one nearby. They're heading to gold here. They're giving this up. Enhanced Fire Giant, finally, 39 minutes into the game, goes the way of Team Sack the Set. This was a 7-0 start for Team Leeds Rhinos, by the way. Call it a Team O, it could be 0-7, whatever you want to call it. They are now in this commanding position with Enhanced Fire Giant to push up. They're going to do just that. Mid-bird already down. Titan, very low HP. Right side of the map is the call. They've got plenty of damage.
And Charlie, that was 19 minutes ago that Fury was taken, that the second Gold Fury was taken for Leeds Rhinos. That's how long this game has been delayed and stalled out. Is that we're almost 20 minutes later, double the time in the game before another Fury falls, as well as the first Fire Giant. Sack the Set now firmly in control of the momentum of this game. They take down the tier 2 in right. All 5 grouped up right side. Meanwhile, Leeds Rhinos a bit scattered on the map, adapting on his way in. And Dardas charging up that World Weaver ultimate, waiting for the perfect target. He throws it out, but it hits one of the tankier members of the team. April just going to be able to heal that one back up. No problem.
Yep, Adapting is pushing up mid, so at the very least, Team Sack the Set knows that there's a Fenrir who is going to be missing, but these Phoenixes are not easy to break through. And remember, you don't have as many tools to your disposal to try and break this Phoenix. It's not as if there's runic bombs in play. You gotta hit true, honest auto attacks on this bird. Adapting, setting up for the gank. There is ward coverage, so at the very least they'll have an idea that Adapting is missing from mid lane, but they might just stall out and try and go for mid bird, because it's about to spawn up in here in a second now.
Yeah, Adapting did pick up one of those rare trinkets, so 300 health as a bonus to try and stay alive. I don't know if April even saw Adapting there around that corner. This could just be a pincer onto the jungler. Adapting now spotted, trying to clear out the wave, so it'll be 2 players, 1 from each team over in mid, but Adapting's going even further forward. This is now just going to be a 5v4 for Sack the Set. Odin Cage dropped down, immediately broken out through the back end of the cage, and Sack the Set can reset themselves, go right back to the bird. I silenced, and the team tanking this one up. Banco holding on, taking a lot of damage. Supernova Eagles rally though, combo in, and Sack the Set have lost 2 players already, and it might be a whole lot more after this. Adapting, he's looping around the back. It's low health bars on Leeds Rhino, but Adapting can just go right in. Big stun onto Dadu, and he goes in for the bite, gets the beads this time, but he gets boxed out. April takes him down with the help in the back line. I Silence gets the kill for Adapting. It is now Genetics and Nika to be the ones on defense against 3.
That could have been game, but instead April says, nah, I'm just going to go in and 1v3. Kills 2 in the backline. This Chalk is a menace. Genetics, Nika, once again, have to try and keep the base alive. Mid-bird is their target. Why not stick around? You have nothing but time. 45 seconds before another member of Sack the Set shows up. And you have plenty of regen here. It's all about keeping the Duo alive. And so far, that's 800 HP. They can get this. They just have to play it slow.
Got plenty of charms once those come off of cooldown. Odin Cage delays a little bit longer. Flop out by Eye Silence. Phoenix down to about 800 health right now. Not going down as quickly as Sack the Set would like. Without minions, it's a little bit tougher in that range just to kind of slow down the opposition. Stun on top of Genetics. Belly flop in. One more in hand would have done it. But instead, the focus is to the bird, and Sack the Set will now finally relieve themselves and head out of the base. The fighting that has gone on for so long has now netted them 2 Phoenixes.
Jemek, I'm so happy that I shouted out the Chungle before this set started, because like I could not go into Smite 2 being a Chungle hater. I just couldn't do it. Like, I need to leave that negative energy back in Smite 1. And April is making it look so solid. Remember, April was really the only one with kills early game in game number 1 and now in game number 2. Sure, had some deaths on him as well, but this Chalk is absolutely keeping the team alive. I mean, that was a lost fight. 0 Phoenixes down until April found that engage. Plenty of low health bars, don't get me wrong. It wasn't as if April did everything, but definitely confirmed the kills when necessary. The Blink Storm Call plays have been pretty absurd. So yeah, April's definitely the guy to keep your eye on so far for Team Sack the Set. Tier 2, Phoenix on left. That is the only structure standing between Team Sack the Set and the win in the EMEA section of the Smite 2 Alpha 2 tournament. Which is not a small feat to be made. Look at the names on the side of Team Leeds Rhinos, some absolute stackers, and so far have been having a rough time defending their base, especially up against this Chalk.
Even when you look at the names on Sack the Set, sure, you don't have the SPL recognition of those players that are on Leeds Rhinos, but these are some of the top SCC players that were just at the Smite 1 world stage or on the cusp of making it to the world stage. So you got a dominant squad on both ends, and right now, Sack the Set is the team that is on top of the game. 1 win up in this best of 3. 1 Fire Giant in hand earlier, about to make it Fire Giant number 2. Leeds Rhinos might not even be able to get there in time. The closest person is Nika, but you have to expend an Eagles rally to try and even get there. It will be Fire Giant once more for Sack the Set.
Look at this,
what do Leeds Rhino do on the defense? They're split up. Adapting is low, uses the Ragnarok, and a lot of that was just damage coming from Eye Silence. Forces out the Fenrir early in the fight.
Oh, there's the Blink ultimate that we've been talking about. Almost one-shot streak up. Plenty of low health bars, but no kills to claim just yet. Finally, Nika goes down. It's a 4 versus 5. Team Sack the Set. They have plenty of time. They have a tier 2. They have a Phoenix to go through, and they have plenty of regen. They have 65 seconds without Nika. I mean, they should play this one about as slow as you can, because this is a 4v5, and you can't mess this one up. At the very least, this left bird should go down.
Tier 2 tower down. Adapting all the way to the right side to try and deal with some of the minions that are pouring in towards the base. Titan has regened a little bit from the last onslaught that Sack the Set had, but in a 5v3, they've got plenty of time to wait this one out. It's a dash in by Banco. Gets a taunt onto 1. The Wings trying to keep Streak up alive. He gets into the Saprate in time, so April not even gets the kill yet. But he's got the Torrent waiting immediately after. 1 more down. Adapting has finally made his presence known. Goes in for the Ragnarok, but gets the beads immediately. It's a jump in, and a belt's not quite enough. Sack the Set with all 5 and just go right to the Titan. Genetics is going to try and stop this one, but the Titan is low, and it's falling fast. Sack the Set will be your EMEA champions.
My goodness, J-Mac. Rough starts both games here. I mean, Team Leeds Rhinos had the early pressure. They had the early ganks. They had the early furies. None of that seemed to matter once they were able to make it to late game. It was Team Sack the Set that had the better AoE, the better team fight. And it seemed that they really learned exactly what Team Leeds Rhinos wants to do. You could see they grouped up, they baited out this Odin cage, and then they just used their Phantom Ring and sort of re-engaged afterwards. A lot of the engage was on adapting or genetics. And another thing, beats was a big factor. When adapting was able to find beats down and just get these easy engages, the fights went so easy for them, right? When you find Ragnarok, pick someone up, get a pick, it's simple. But once they realized, hey, if no one but adapting is getting beads down, we'll just save our beads for that guy. Who else is pulling beads? Genetics tried, Nika tried. Wasn't too easy. And it did seem like the Odin pick had a little bit of a fall off there. Of course, Genetics was annoying and had some decent CC, but the Ring of Spears in particular did not get too much value late game.
I mean, we saw the strength of the Odin early game as long with the Soul. I mean, a dominant dual lane. It was a 5-0 start for Streak Up in that dual lane. But then a couple of kills went the opposite direction. Now we start to see a little bit of fight back from Sack the Set, who have made a tremendous run through this bracket, will be your EMEA champions here. So a nice little cut of the prize pool for them. Able to take down some pretty tough opponents along the way through the bracket. And their toughest one yet here being Leeds Rhino. A nice 2-0 in the grand finals for Sack the Set. Take the first Alpha 2 weekend tournament for themselves in Smite 2 and will be your champions of the EMEA region.
And what a run they had. Again, this was 2 games where I would assume the majority of people watching were counting Sack the Set out just because of how the early game went. But this goes to show, defending your base, defending up against these Fire Giant fights, keeping the Phoenixes alive, very important here this weekend. So that's going to be something for when we're watching the NA bracket later on that we got to keep our minds on, because it's not as if just an early lead is going to be enough to snowball this game. There is certainly some comeback potential if you play correctly and really capitalize on those options.
Yeah, I think this is a kind of perfect encapsulation to show that doesn't matter how far ahead you get in the early game, how many kills you get, you've got to be able to do something with that lead. Just getting the Furies isn't enough. Just taking a Fire Giant once or twice isn't enough. And we even saw back in game number 1, even getting Ancient Furies isn't quite enough. You've got to be able to get these group ups, these sieges to really push forward. And we were lacking a little bit of that on the side of Leeds Rhinos. And Sack the Set just playing patiently. Sustain was the name of the game. 4 Soul Devours for the extra damage. 4 Amanita Charms to keep the team topped off on HP at any given point of a fight. Just felt like it was so difficult for Leeds Rhino to ever really find a fight back in these late games.
Not to mention that Benko had about as bad of a start as you can get.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Deathwalker was getting camped in that lane. He got soloed. He would teleport over and get no value. I think he was like 0-4 or something. And then the Athena late game, night and day difference, right? You get to keep someone alive. You get to continuously just engage for your team with those taunts. And of course, the Soul Devourer procs also are going to help. Just about everyone was getting value from that from Team Sack the Set. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Just because you have a rough early time or rough early lane, you still can make some big impact if your character like Athena can provide.
Well, that's going to do it for the EMEA side. Again, congratulations to Sack the Set for being the champions of their region. But that's not all that we have here for the Smite 2 Alpha 2 tournaments. We've got the North American regions going to be coming up. They're starting fresh up into their bracket. We're going to be jumping in just a few minutes right after this break.